I cannot be the only one who can get you the final rank. You are the one who are going to get it. 95% of your success is yours. Only 4 to 5% will depend to your mentors, but will channelize the right form of energy. But one thing you have to remember, if you are not doing your level best, if you are not having a kind of insurance for the CSET, तो यार फिर हम लोग कहीं ना कहीं जो भी मेहनत आप कर रहे हो, eventually you'll feel like ये सब छोड़ देते हैं, पहले CSET करते हैं एक साल. That is what is going to come to your mind. And many students who are now conversing with me today, some of them are like this only, कि सर CSET में रह गया, CSET में रह गया. Because many of them have realized those people who are getting 75 have passed. Okay. So today what we will do, eventually I'll give you a complete overview of ancient India. Okay. Have a basic understanding today of each and everything, and then we'll focus on the each and every topic. Alright. So we'll start with this. Some fundamental things which all of you have to understand today itself. That when it comes to ancient India, the first question is map your 50 marks. Okay, this we have covered last week. So many of you joined us last week itself. I hope this is clear to all of you. Those of you who have joined us from today, don't worry, have the online access with yourself. Plus, when we'll have the classes second time around after the finishing of the world history, okay, then you can have the live classes with me again, whatever problem of any sort that you found. Second, now our focus would be on the remaining 200 marks for paper 1. Alright, how many questions are going to come in ancient India? First, I want you to take a complete calculative outlook, and then we'll focus on everything else. This is the paper of 2022. Just read it carefully, because whatever overview I'll give you, I'll try to make you understand which is the main area on the basis of which you're going to score 300 marks. Whatever you understand from ancient India, UPSC के पास क्या जाता है finally? Just your paper copy? Nothing else? है ना, ये तो है नहीं फोन करोगे सर वो पेपर के क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 में एक पॉइंट रह गया, अभी बता देता हूँ, just give me 1 mark extra. No, nothing of that sort is there. So just see the first question, the urban character of Harappan civilization. It means Harappan civilization is important somehow for this exam. All of you need to clear this exam. For that you have to get these things complete in your head from today itself, that whatever you are studying in ancient India, to what extent it's going to help you in the final exam. If it is not helping you somehow, तो उसको पढ़ने का भी कोई ज़्यादा फायदा नहीं है. We'll complete the full syllabus, but I want you to understand these basic things. See the second question. This is about foreign accounts. So foreign accounts is a subtopic under sources. Okay, so sources becomes very important. So just see the syllabus. Okay, so in sources we have this specific topic, foreign accounts, Greek, Chinese and Arab travelers. We'll cover all of them, but questions are not going to come every year from these topics. Naturally, the total number of questions which can come from ancient India in any year's paper is only 9. Question number 2, like this, question number 2 has 3 subparts. The first is on Harappan civilization, second is on sources, and the third one is on Buddhism and its comparison with the ideas of Vedic Upanishad tradition. This is known as Shravan tradition. How from that we had borrowed the ideas. See the next part. It's about the economic achievement. So one economic theme is equally important. Whenever we study history, our major focus is always going to be on political ideas. But UPSC will somehow ask questions from economic achievements. Okay. Next you see Ashoka's Dhamma. So Ashoka remains relevant. Ashoka, Arthashastra administration of Mauryas. This is going to be very important for us. Next part is very basic art and architecture. So they have asked temple architecture of North India and South India. This could be the easiest question which can come in the exam, and many of you can easily write it. Okay, I'm not saying very well, but at least few points you can easily write. Next part you see early medieval India. Okay, once we see the downfall of the major dynasties after Gupta, we see the rise of Harshvardhana, and after Harshvardhana we see the rise of these Pratiharas, Palas and Rashtrakutas, and these three are going to fight. So that early medieval period tripartite struggle has come. Then we see Tamil Bhakti movement, and finally we see Kalhana's Raja Tarangani. All these three questions, they belong to early medieval period. Is it clear? Are you able to assess the paper? This is the first important requirement for all of you. Let us see the paper of 21 also, just to get a fair idea if there is some change of pattern from 21 to 22, that we will be able to understand very easily. Look, these things are normally do with students of mains, but I am trusting my judgment that you can also do it. You can also realize what is important, what is not important. So this is from the topper's eye, how toppers see the history optional, rather than just being a rookie कि मेरे को तो अभी फाउंडेशन करना, 4 महीने के बाद सर से पूछ लूंगा क्या पढ़ाई करनी है अब. This is not how it works. I want all of you to become intelligent beings. That intelligence means see the paper, dissect it, then choose your targets accordingly. कि कहाँ पे invest करके return आने वाला है. See the first question, again we see Harappan Civilization. So it becomes a very important topic for all of us. See the second question, it is again with Upanishad, means somehow Vedas is a very important theme of ancient India from paper point of view also. Third, it's about art and architecture. Okay, so post Mauryan art, we see the rise of 3 important schools. Which are those? Yes, Mathura, Gandhara and Amravati. And what they have done, significance and the indigenous development. So both of them we have to mention accordingly. We'll go into answer writing also, because from now onward answer writing is going to become very important. Is it clear to all of you? Okay, answer writing pe bhi focus karenge. See the next question, it is from Megalith. These are some topics which comes once in 5 years. Once in 5 years, like foreign account came in the previous one, and here they have asked Megalith. This question previously came in 2014, and after 14 the next question came in 21. Okay, see the next question, it is about Kautilya's Arthashastra. We'll go into the internal part, because this is not a very straightforward question. When somebody will say nature of state, so first you have to understand what is a state, then only we can analyze the nature. तो वो भी हम पूरा आराम से बेसिक लेवल पे करेंगे. Next you see how did Varna Dharma system increasing social complexity along with social and economic development. In basic sense, if I say the relationship of society and economy, because both of them, they are always going to be going together, they will evolve together. Next we see again one full-fledged question on Buddhism and its rise. What are the factors responsible for the rise of Buddhism? Next in 4B we see large number of land grants, so means early medieval period. And finally the last question that we have, it's about the emergence of literature in vernacular languages, and that too in early medieval India. So what are the things which you are able to learn from this 5 minutes discussion? If you want to attempt 2 questions, okay, you have choices. At max how many questions can you do from ancient India? 2 out of 3. It means how many subparts? 6. 6 से ज़्यादा कर ही नहीं सकते, 2 क्वेश्चन है. अब एक चीज ध्यान रखना, whenever you have to attempt paper, you have to do the full question. You do not have this liberty 2A, 3B, 4C, हो गया question. This is not how it works. You have to select a full question. You cannot be like random choices आप नहीं कर सकते. Alright. So in general, whatever is your understanding of ancient India will be evaluated on the basis of how many themes? Only 6 themes. So whatever you study, try to become the best in that. सारा सिलेबस पता है, सब कुछ थोड़ा थोड़ा आता है, नंबर फिर भी नहीं आएंगे. Is it clear to all of you? So some part is there which we can easily realize, like if we focus on Harappa, the dividend are going to come. If we focus on sources, yes, 1 year they have asked about Upanishad, 1 year they have asked about foreign accounts, so it's going to help you out. If we see further topics like Maurya is a recurring theme, Buddhism is again a recurring theme from where you'll get questions. Yes, there are always going to be new questions, I'm not denying that. जैसे हमें मेगालिथ मिला, नया क्वेश्चन आएगा, एक आधा तो आना ही वाला, बट दीज आर इजियर टॉपिक्स. We'll cover everything in the class, but you have to get a maximum focus on these areas. Okay, like one area which has emerged is early medieval period, land grants, literature, etc., etc., tripartite struggle. These kinds of questions are coming from early medieval period. All right, so today when I'm going to give you a complete overview, you have to keep it in mind that in our classes, our maximum focus again is going to be on these topics, because I want all of you to succeed. Okay, that's why I asked in the beginning, yaar prelims देखो बिना prelims निकाले, without clearing that, whatever discussion we are having here, it's of no use. So you have to make sure कि आप next year prelims निकाल रहे हो. Okay, slowly after every 1 week, 2 week, we're going to dedicate some amount of time to your general studies queries also in the class itself. In newspaper में क्या करना है, current affair क्या करना है, ठीक है, CSET में क्या कर सकते हैं, all those things, because I want all of you to clear this exam. This is not merely focusing on only one subject. That subject is crucial for your prelims, mains, as well as your interview. You already know that. Okay, today I received 2-3 messages because we have some prelims programs also for the history students. So a person was able to get 12 question correct out of 14 by just joining one program of our institute. So he was today, sir, यही game changer था मेरे लिए तो. He was not from history optional. History optional students can do so, but he was not from this. He was from sociology, not having that much understanding of history, but still he was able to do so. So why did it happen? Because our strategies are very good for UPSC, and you have to trust it, and eventually we will also do this in our option also. So maximum answer writing we should do on these topics. Is it clear to all of you? अब अगर आप बोलोगे नहीं सर हम तो आज पूरा स्टोन एज पे ही आंसर राइटिंग करते हैं, there UPSC is not going to ask questions. You will be very happy. Okay, I know what is Neolithic, what is this, what is that, but eventually your hard work or your time, your investment is not in the right order. Okay, is it clear to all of you? So where should we do maximum answer writing? From where should the maximum number of question in your test should come? It should come from these areas. All these things I will take care. What you have to do, you have to first, very important thing, pay attention in the classes. If you will not pay attention in the classes, it's not going to work out. Please keep that in mind. Okay, because everything that we do, there is a method behind it. All right. Second, revision. Today we have not given you any notes of any order. We are going to provide you previous year question booklet, which is updated till 2022. First document will be given to you just to make you realize from which topic, which kind of questions have come in the past. Second important, whatever we'll cover, those topic wise booklets, handouts will be given to you. All right. There will be some questions in your mind. Should we prepare notes or not? है ना, हर किसी को ये तो रहता ही है कि we should go for notes, which books to consider. These two questions will be there. Online students, if you have any question, first let us finish these kinds of things. Okay, how to utilize EMI. Like if we talk about books, the one books which has become a seminal part of history optional is Upinder Singh. Okay. Which chapters are most important? Chapter number 1. Write down sources. If you read sources even page by page, the whole chapter, it will help you. It will help you. But do not make notes. Do not make notes. Notes of only those topics are to be created which are essential from UPSC point of view. Unnecessary note making should not be done. We will provide you complete handouts and I'll tell you also कि इस topic का short note बनाना है तो बना सकते हो. So ask me in the class itself. Alright. Do not put too much burden on your head and then eventually wasting time. So note making मैं आपको separately class by class बताऊंगा. किस टॉपिक पे क्या करने का फायदा है क्या नहीं है. Like you have seen Harappan Civilization, the two questions, even if you see the last 4-5 years question, maximum question have come on origin and decline of Harappan Civilization. So if you want to make notes, make it like this. आपका कम टाइम लगेगा है ना. If you think कि पूरा Harappan Civilization, I think there is chapter number 4 which is belongs to Harappan Civilization. If you think like you will make notes of whole of Harappan Civilization from Upinder Singh, then what is the use of these handouts which are providing to you? So chapter by chapter I'll tell you क्या पढ़ने का फायदा है और क्या नहीं है. Reduce your time with respect to these books because like chapter number 2 and 3 in the map classes we have already covered all those sides which are mentioned there. The features will discuss in the class itself of all these periods. So doing chapter number 2 and 3 doesn't make sense at all from Upinder Singh. So initially, because even covering till Harappan Civilization in our classes, it will take at least 8 classes. At least 8 classes will be taken by me for covering of your initial Stone Age, sources and Harappan Civilization. तो इतना समझ में आ गया. अगर पढ़ना तो कितने चैप्टर पढ़ने सर? 2 चैप्टर. एंड देयर ऑल्सो मैं आपको जब हम पढ़ेंगे इन टॉपिक्स को विस्तार में कि ठीक है वी आर डूइंग दिस सोर्स टुडे लिटरेरी सोर्स, सो कौन सा टॉपिक इसके अंडर आता है आपको साथ में हैंडआउट भी देखना है. वट एवर इज गिवन इन योर हैंडआउट, इफ यू वांट टू डू सम वैल्यू एडिशन, डू इट इन द हैंडआउट इटसेल्फ. जहां आपको 5 मिनट के अंदर आपका नोट मेकिंग खत्म हो सकता है उसको आप 3 घंटे का क्यों बना रहे हो? दैट शुड नॉट बी डन. प्लस नोट मेकिंग शुड ऑल्सो फोकस ऑन प्रीवियस ईयर questions. All the questions which come in the UPSC exam, they may not be mentioned in your syllabus. Some of them can be innovative in nature. So we'll discuss in the class. So whenever you write answers, you can just add to your notes. Am I making sense to all of you? I want all of you to use your time wisely because you do not have just the burden of optional. You may be covering your GS foundation from some institute. You may be covering it on your own and you want to get the rank also next year. You have to specifically develop answer writing also. So there's a lot of burden on your shoulders. I want to reduce it to minimum, something which is a efficient mode of understanding the optional. So book only one, that is Upinder Singh, and here also I have only told you 2 chapters, chapter number 1 and 4. So for now just read the first chapter. ठीक है. When you'll read it in the class, जब क्लास में कवर करेंगे उन टॉपिक्स आपको समझ में आ जाएगा कितना फायदा है और कितना नुकसान है. बिकॉज मैं कितना भी बोलूं मानोगे तो आप वैसे भी नहीं until you have done it on your own at least once. So John, can you read only one chapter? Only one chapter. How much time will it take? कितना टाइम लगेगा? चैप्टर 1 देखा है? उपेंद्र सिंह हैज वेरी बिग साइज. एक पेज पढ़ने में ऐसा लगता है मौत आने वाली है ना. सो यू कैन टेक एटलीस्ट 3 days. Divide it if there are 60 pages, 20, 20, 20, like that. All right. When we'll give you the notes, you'll also realize कि ये तो notes में आ चुका है. Like you'll read, हाँ ठीक है, inscription there is one topic, coinage there is one topic, like that literary sources में Vedas is one topic, Upanishad is topic. All those topics are given in Upinder Singh, but they are not complete. What happens in the books? In chapter number 1, Upanishad are discussed. But again in chapter number 4 or 5 where Vedic period is there, again they'll discuss the Upanishad. Then they will link it again Upanishad with the Buddhism. So one topic is segregated into multiple chapters. So for complete clarity, just focus on the class discussion. We'll cover everything there along with the PYQs. We are going to provide you this copy of PYQ. Why? Because I want all of you to stay alert that on this topic we have these many PYQ. Are they finished or not? So class के साथ साथ में ही सब कुछ finish करेंगे. So I hope I am clear with respect to book and your note making. Hold your horses for note making for so far, है ना. एक हफ्ते के लिए बस wait करो इसको for your note making. Just read the chapter number 1. Nothing else you have to do. There are many books for ancient India. NCERT is there, but NCERT is not going to help you much with respect to sources. UPSC is not asking question from there. तो वहाँ उतना help नहीं मिलने वाला. Just for basic understanding, okay, that is there, but that will cover in the class itself. Second problem with the books is they are not going to provide you framework. You understand? They have given some knowledge with respect to literary sources, some knowledge with respect to inscription, some with respect to foreign accounts, but they are not going to give you the framework कि when a question on sources is going to come, which point should be thought by you and how to use that in a specific framework. So that we'll do in the classes itself. तो आपके लिए बहुत आसान हो जाएगा कोई भी आंसर लिखना. How to write introductions, how to write conclusion. So just wait for 2-3 classes and we'll start with the answer writing. Because if I'll give you some question today randomly, answer writing के नाम पे आप सब लोग उस पर डायग्राम पे कुछ टाइम पास करके मुझे वापस दे दोगे. And that will not be fruitful. So just wait for few classes and then we'll be able to start with the third part, which is answer writing. तो वो भी क्लास के साथ में करेंगे. We'll write answers from PYQs also, so you'll understand each and everything. Now let us start with the overview. कि overview में करना क्या है, ठीक है? So the first part in ancient India that we have is prehistoric period. Online students, I hope I am clear to all of you. Yes, Lalit, you can just stay focus on our notes. Okay, that is more than enough. I am telling you, if you just focus on our handout, you don't have to go for excessive note making. सिर्फ उस चीज पे नोट बनाओ जो important है from exam point of view. Okay, exam point of view से क्या important है, सिर्फ उसका नोट बनाओ. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, जब एक हम session रखेंगे with the toppers again, where they will discuss in detail what they did, which got them the highest marks. You all of you want to get the 290, 300 superlative score. How will that come? Not with experiments. That will take 4 to 5 years of your life. It should come with the right kind of strategy. So if toppers are going to engage with you, आप कोई भी क्वेश्चन पूछना उनसे बैठ के, मैं भी आपके साथ बैठ जाऊंगा, क्या क्या पूछो, है ना? Because these people have also asked tons of questions from me in last 2-3 years. क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. When they were finally able to emerge as victorious in the exam, अब उनसे पूछो क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है. Because I am here for every day. वो बस आपको एक बार overview दे देंगे इन चीजों का. Let us start. Prehistoric period. What is the meaning of prehistory? Today's overview is all about making you aware of each part of the syllabus. Okay. Initially, I have just made you realize the importance of the topics for the ancient India. जो सबसे important areas हैं, जहाँ सबसे ज़्यादा focus रहेगा अपना, जहाँ where we'll do the maximum amount of answer writing also. All right. So please engage when required. So prehistory means only one thing. If we see from historical point of view, means the absence of script. So we do not have script. And since we do not have script, how do we get information about prehistory? On the basis of archaeology. So on the basis of archaeology, we are able to get some understanding of the prehistoric period. Some of you may not have seen that initial conceptual classes, so this is going to clear some of the doubts. Very brief, we are going to upload this PPT in the portal, so just have a go through it. इसको फिर से एक बार देख लेना. आपका basic जो requirement होगा for the main classes वो clear out हो जाएगा इससे भी. Is it clear to all of you? Okay, so that prehistoric period that we talk about eventually can be divided into various parts. The first part is Palaeolithic. Okay, or known as the Old Stone Age. What is the time period for that? 2 million years ago all the way up to 10,000 BCE. The prehistoric period can be further divided into first Paleolithic. Okay, the total time period is 2 million years ago till 10,000 BC. All of this is in BC. Means if we calculate it from today's point of view, we are just going to add the current year और आप वहां तक पहुंच जाओगे. Alright, but when we see 2 million years ago, तो कितना फर्क पड़ेगा with the 2000? So not much difference is going to get created. Anyway, so Paleolithic period can be further divided into three parts. The first phase is early Paleolithic period, okay, or the lower. Lower is the more appropriate term which is often used. Why I use the word early? Because you can understand lower में हर कभी लगता है पहले वाला है कि बाद वाला है. So the earliest period, it is known as lower. Then comes the in between period which is known as middle Paleolithic period. Okay, and the latest one, the latest Paleolithic period, it is known as upper Paleolithic period. Okay, the whole Stone Age is often divided on the basis of which specific point of view? On the basis of tools, tools which are made on the basis of the certain technology. Okay, so whenever we talk about the lower, middle and upper Paleolithic, the technology which was used was during the earliest phase, it was, yes, it was core. Then we shifted towards flake, and finally we shifted towards blade. Okay, technology remains the most important paradigm on the basis of which the whole Stone Age period is divided. The first phase, Paleolithic, is divided on the basis of technology, core, flake and blade. Core means the big stone without any further kind of intervention. ठीक है, जो बड़ा स्टोन होता है. When it is sharpened from one side, it becomes flake, and as all of you know, when it is sharpened from both sides, it becomes a blade. So this is the technology which we have seen in the Paleolithic period. Alright, the whole topic of Paleolithic is mostly important from map point of view. It is very less important from your mains examination. So here the understanding is going to help you in writing information in the map, okay, which we have discussed separately also along with the classes also, so that double revision can happen for the same topic and your basics are also formulated. These kinds of questions can come in your prelims examination, so that's why please be very attentive. कहीं से भी question UPSC आजकल बना लेता है. You have seen the prelims examination, you may get question next year from Paleolithic period or Mesolithic or Neolithic, and the question will become tougher if you do not know the overall timeline. Okay, timelines are very important for understanding any part of history. So the overall Paleolithic period, it is divided from 2 million years ago till 10,000 BC. This can be further divided, and for these understanding, like early, lower part can be divided from 2 million years ago till what time period? It is till 1 lakh BC. The middle Paleolithic period can be divided from 1 lakh to 40,000, and last one from 40 to 10,000. Okay, so this signifies the changes which are happening within the Paleolithic period. So whenever we discuss about prehistoric, the first stage that we have is Paleolithic. When we comes to second part, it is Mesolithic period or the middle Stone Age. This middle Stone Age, roughly time period you can have 10,000 to 8,000. In some books you will find 7,000. Doesn't matter much. Okay, because in different parts of the world the timeline is different. One more thing which I want all of you to understand, even within India, India has a very big geographical area. If we see in terms of the world also, I think we are 7th, right? We are 7th. So in India also, different parts have different timelines of the emergence of these Mesolithic cultures. So this is one thing which you have to learn to appreciate, that homogeneity is very less in India because of very large geographical area. And throughout every part of history, you have to be aware of this one single thing. Even when we will discuss about sources, okay, one of the parameter to judge any source would be the geography of that source. Like if I talk about Vedic period, what was the roughly area where we see the Vedic civilization? अगर हम अर्ली पार्ट करें तो ठीक है, इंडस एंड इट्स ट्रिब्यूटरीज, और अगर हम बात करते हैं लेटर वैदिक पीरियड का, तो इट विल बी रफली फ्रॉम योर अपना गंगा वाला सिस्टम आ जाता है ना, मिडिल आपका गंगेटिक वैली. बट व्हेन यू राइट, यू नॉट इवन हाईलाइट इन योर आंसर कि दैट दिस स्पेसिफिक पीरियड है ना, साउथ में क्या था और विच टू विच ज्योग्राफी दिस इज लिमिटेड. सो वन ऑफ द फंडामेंटल of writing very good answers is to highlight the area to which this part is related to. Like Mesolithic period we found in different parts of India. So here we can say okay ठीक है इसी area में है. When we talk about the life of Paleolithic period, majority of the early men they lived in and around caves. Okay, they lived in and around cave area. Why? Because temperature was very cold. Okay, temperature was very cold and you required shelters to live. All right, like today if you see, अगर इंडिया के ये वाला टेम्परेचर जो है जो 40 डिग्री 45 डिग्री पहुंचने वाला है, इसमें आप केव में रहना पसंद करोगे, ठीक है, या फिर बाहर रहना पसंद करोगे? अब बोलो बाहर लू में मर जाएंगे हम तो. You'll always require a shelter, but you should also know how to make it. आजकल तो बिल्डर को सब कुछ आता है, हमें कुछ करना नहीं पड़ता, सिर्फ पे करना है लास्ट में और घर आपका. एट दैट पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम डू यू थिंक कोई ईएमआई पे आपके लिए घर बनाने वाला था? कोई नहीं बनाने वाला था. सो यू हैव टू लर्न योरसेल्फ. सो इन मेसोलिथिक पीरियड व्हेन द टेम्परेचर डिक्लाइन, ओके, व्हेन आपके पास ऐसे सूट बूट नहीं थे, you are not having these clothes also. Okay, so for the whenever the conditions become favorable for human life, eventually we see more progress. The same thing happened during the Mesolithic periods. Temperature became relatively very good for the evolution of human life. That's why people started now living towards the plain area, and even the technology which was now required was refined. So in Mesolithic period we see the rise of which kind of tools? We see the rise of microlith. All right, and whenever there is a transformation in life, you have more time, you'll go towards your aesthetic sense. So these people now are like, चल ठीक है आप पेंटिंग बनाना शुरू करते हैं, let us make some paintings. So if you see at Bhimbetka, आदमगढ़ है ना, बहुत सारी हैं. There are more than 150 places in India from where we found Mesolithic paintings. So painting is the first form of art. If suppose in prelims this statement comes, this is the oldest form of art that is known to human. So would it be correct or not? हमारे पास उस टाइम पे टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर तो था नहीं. We did not even have the your rock cut cave architecture also. So what kind of architecture were we or art we were having? We were having the paintings. So the first instance where man is or the women they are trying to reflect their aesthetic sense, it came in the form of paintings. This is the time where we see the use of fire. Try to understand this. This is very important in evolution. Whenever you have easy food digestion, you can work more. You see a lion, lion की डाइट देखिए, 2-4 घंटे उठे, then they go for hunting, then they'll have their, हम तो ब्रंच नहीं, उनका तो पूरा एक ही दिन का होता है, 2-3 घंटे बैठ के खाया, then they sleep for 20 hours. Okay, because they digest raw food. But once you have fire, आपने सारे टिक्के बना लिए, पनीर टिक्का, चिकन टिक्का, सारे टिक्के आ गया. इसका सबसे बड़ा फायदा क्या होता है? Whenever we go for cooked food, first thing, आपके जितने भी bad bacteria होते हैं, they get killed. So for food hygiene also this becomes easy. Second, since it's a cooked food, it will take less time for digestion. तो आपका जो स्लीप साइकिल है वो भी चेंज होने लगता है. एंड व्हेन स्लीप साइकिल इज गोइंग टू चेंज, क्या करोगे आप बैठ के खाली? यू विल डू सम पेंटिंग्स, राइट? सो थिंग्स आर गोइंग टू डेवलप अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस. व्हेन, so what you will do, this will also be the time of beginning of community life. If you are sleeping for 20 hours every day, what kind of community life will you have? हमेशा जब मिलोगे तो वही पूछो खाना मिला कि नहीं मिला. Then you'll go for sleeping. So this is the time when the community life also started developing, because आपके पास टाइम आ चुका है. You must have seen some yoga gurus. आजकल बहुत चल रहा है YouTube पे, that you can sleep for only 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, है ना? And you can live life, है ना? अपनी human life की potential को unlock करो. But कितना घंटा सोते हैं हम लोग? मतलब 6 to 8 hours का सबका different होगा. And there will be some कुंभकर्ण also, है ना? जो 10-11 घंटे के बिना तो मजा ही नहीं आता लाइफ. Whatever it is, मतलब, but roughly ये स्पैन तो है ना सबका 6 to 9 के आसपास. Because our sleeping hours are less, जो जितना भी remaining रह गया आपका, depending upon your schedule, you are able to interact with your environment, you are able to interact, and throughout this time अगर आप इतना सो रहे हो तो इतना टाइम बचता, तो कहाँ का यूपीएससी, कौन सा एम्बिशन, क्या करना है नहीं करना, क्या क्या, मतलब देयर इज नो रेलेवेंस ऑफ ऑल दिस. बट सिंस एटलीस्ट 2/3 पार्ट ऑफ एवरी डे वी आर एक्टिव, दैट्स वाई हमारे ये सब टारगेट्स आ जाते हैं लाइफ में. सिमिलर थिंग हैपेंड इन माइक्रोलिथ. देयर वाज चेंज ऑफ टेम्परेचर, एवरीथिंग इज बिकमिंग कॉर्डियल फॉर द लाइफ. पीपल आर नाउ ईटिंग कुक्ड फूड. दे स्टार्टेड शिफ्टिंग टुवर्ड्स प्रोजेक्टाइल्स, है ना? The manner in which you're getting your food, आप उसको चेंज करते जा रहे हैं. Like today, if you want to eat something, तो आपको पता है स्विगी, जोमेटो. 10 years ago, when these startups were starting, it was not that easy. Everything was not at your fingertips. So because of change of technology, आज लोग, obesity is increasing in India. पहले तो आलसी लोग जैसे मेरे लोग हैं, बाहर अगर उनको जाना है वो पहले ही मना करेंगे, रहने देते हैं, भूखे रह लेंगे. बट टुडे व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, आपको पता है कूपन भी है ना? यू हैव दैट कूपन ऑल्सो. और एक नया है ना ओएनडीसी करके, है ना? यू रियलाइज कि गवर्नमेंट भी अपने को बोल रही है कुछ खाओ पियो यार, है ना? यू आर गेटिंग कूपन्स. सो द चेंज ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, एवरीथिंग इज नाउ एट योर फिंगर टिप्स. 10 साल और पीछे जाओ, even today maximum population of India, it is engaged in agriculture. Why? Because the food production system in India is still not efficient. Plus the number of jobs which are required for transition for those people are not there in the other sectors. This is the main reason. Same situation here also. Alright, तो आपको जब भी whenever you are studying anything, try to think, जब भी आपका फंडामेंटल बेसिस ठीक होगा, टॉपिक को समझने का आइडिया भी अच्छा लगेगा. लाइक हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू डू पेंटिंग? तो 1-2 लोग ही हैं, यही लोग समझ पाएंगे मेसोलिथिक की पेंटिंग. द रेस्ट, फॉर द रेस्ट दीज आर सम लाइन रैंडम कलर्स. इफ यू डू नॉट हैव एस्थेटिक सेंस, कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड दोज थिंग्स? राइट. सो आपको भी उसके लेवल पे आना पड़ेगा समझने के लिए. Like today I cannot produce tools in front of you, core, ये देखो कोई core का है, this is flake, this is blade, but we can have some through the help of PPT, imagination. So whenever you try to understand any specific theme, please उसको इस level पे देखो कि आपको sustainable level पे समझ आ जाए. Whenever I am telling you कि भाई ठीक है, life is becoming easy for the humans, that means some significant change has happened either in the environment or in the technology or in the change of social organization. All right, so we'll understand all these concepts one after the other. But one thing you have to understand, even till Mesolithic, nobody is now asking कि आपका title क्या है. They are not even efficient with respect to communication. तो कौन सा caste system? Nothing is there. Handful of people are there. They are just starting to develop their community life. So the initial interaction of the humans is not going to be on the basis of कौन से गांव से हो, because there is no village. घर में क्या लगा है? Because there are no artificial homes which are of good quality. So maximum community life किस basis पर develop होगा in the Mesolithic period? Community feast, exactly. अगर आप तो खाना खिला सकते हो इतने लोगों को, तो everybody will come in and around you, because for them the survival depends upon food. So इस टाइम पे सबसे बड़ा चीज क्या है? Food. All right. And along with this, the microlith. We see a trade and commerce is expanding in Indian subcontinent on the basis of microlith, because microlith were tools of 2 to 5 centimeter, and they were used for projectiles for hunting animals. So what kind of technology would you like to have? Something which is of utility is there. आप सब लोग पेन लेके क्यों बैठे हो? Why do you have these notebooks? Because you want to make some notes, right? Similarly, for them it was microlith. Their life was dependent upon hunting and food gathering, but at the same time, this was the time period they started domestication of animals. They started domestication of animals. So there must have been some reasoning behind it. Like right now, we don't even think about it. Majority of us in the breakfast have milk. In terms of milk production, India has surplus. है ना? We are the largest producer of milk. So from where did this would have started? This would have started from the Mesolithic period. So in terms of revolution, yes, it was something different for us, because our food choices were now getting increased. The initial man was not having the luxury of being vegetarian. They had to depend upon hunting and food gathering. Even though today, in today's India, it has become a moral choice, है ना? मोरल बन गया ना पॉलिटिक्स में, वेज नॉन वेज. एक वो होता है कि अगर कोई भी वेज होगा इवेंचुअली, तो दे विल टेक द हायर साइड, दैट वी डू नॉट ईट मीट एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. But at that point of time, do you think it was that kind of a choice? For survival, you will do anything. So fight was there for survival being. This is going on in Mesolithic period. So the first time we started going for domestication of animals. Then came the biggest shift, which is Neolithic period. We are creating basic building blocks. Even in terms of polity, we do not know much. Today all of us talk about democracy, right to vote. They were not concerned about it much. Very less population. They can take care of their own goods. Okay. Even if fighting is there, it is for some scarce resources. But in terms of space, there was not much problem. Do you think when we have very less humans, there is problem of encroachment of land? सब लोग चाहेंगे ना, आ जाओ यार, रह लो please. Please stay close by. At least there will be some safety from the wild animals. You will not think in those terms. Right? In India, we have become so accustomed कि यार इतने सारे लोग हैं. When you go to some foreign country, ठीक है, वहाँ पे population क्या होगा? कम होगा. सबसे पहले जाके इसी से डर लगने जाता है, लोग कहाँ चले गए? If you go to Canada, such a large country, but how many people are there? 2.5 crore hardly. इतना ही लोग हैं वहाँ पे, ज्यादा लोग ही नहीं है. So the same situation is there. So when in Neolithic period, first we see the beginning of agriculture. So agriculture is the most important thing which has happened in the life of humans. Our whole life depends upon food, and if you're not getting food on time, eventually whatever everything else you're doing, वो नहीं होने वाला है. Right? The whole economics that you want to participate in is not going to happen without you have the food. So Neolithic period in those terms was a revolution. We'll discuss this debate in detail later on कि क्या क्या उसके components हैं. There are so many theories given by various archaeologists and historians कि why this agriculture began. Can you think of something? What could have led to the beginning of agriculture? ऐसा क्या हुआ होगा? Okay, climate change तो चलो ठीक है. In everything when we are not able to explain, we come up with क्लाइमेट चेंज, चलो ठीक है, एक लेवल तक होता भी है ये। Scarcity of animals, or on the other side we can say increase in population. When the population is going to increase, naturally they are going to require more food, and if they are not able to get in the nearby areas, so they have to shift towards something else. In other words, necessity is the mother of invention. This is the theme that he is talking about. Can you think of anything else, online students, why agriculture would have started in Neolithic period? Okay, to some extent we can say भाई ठीक है intellectual, or it could be just because of some experimentation, कि आपने करके देखा है ना, you experimented and it happened eventually. Yes. Yes, so that was always the motive, that we have to secure the supply for the food. That is always the motive, because whenever you're depending for hunting and food gathering, you are not sure when you are going to get the next meal. You are not having fridge, है ना, कि उसको साफ सुथरा करके रख लोगे. Whatever you are going to hunt, it's going to decay within next 2 to 3 days. Temperature is getting hotter. Whenever we have hot climate, in that the bacterial activity are always going to increase, and the chances of food getting spoiled will increase eventually. वो तो साथ में ही चलने वाला है. So since we do not have much with respect to preservation of food, so if you are having hunting and food gathering, eventually your next meal is all up to chances. So we would like to shift to agriculture. Like if you have the grains of wheat, rice, they are going to sustain for long, है ना, उसमें easy रहता है to cook food, है ना, eventually. Anyway, so there are so many debate. One thing which is very clear, we do not know क्या reason रहा होगा. In the world, we have various centers where we see the beginning of agriculture. Like in Indian subcontinent, we have Mehergarh. Okay, we also have Koldi Hawa, we have Lahore Deva. At every place, we found different type of crops. Even in your Middle East, we have some sites where we see the beginning of agriculture. We'll discuss about all that. But these are fundamental questions. And in history, sometimes whenever we see debates, so this is the first debate that we have important from exam point of view. What were the factors responsible for the beginning of agriculture? So there are two types of things that we have talked about. There may be a turning event, like sudden change in climate eventually led to the beginning of agriculture, or some experiment was done by someone and it led to the beginning of agriculture. These are events. On the other hand, there can be certain processes also which can lead to the beginning of agriculture. So we'll discuss all these, because in initial classes we have to develop the habit of thinking. Okay, in optional, if you want to score the highest marks, it's not going to happen just by cramming. Just by cramming you can do good only in few questions. Some questions are always going to be challenging, and for that you have to develop your way of thinking, and then only your answer can become very good. All right, so in prehistory, Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic, okay, these three are the fundamental time periods. Then we'll see the shift towards Chalcolithic period. Okay, within Chalcolithic period we also have the Harappan civilization. Civilization is going to develop on northwestern part of Indian subcontinent, but the rest of the Indian subcontinent will have the Chalcolithic cultures. Some of them would be contemporary, like Kayatha, and some of them they will start even later, like the Jorwe culture. So this is what prehistory is all about, which you need to understand. Let me now increase the level of your understanding about the word prehistory. There are three terms: prehistory, proto-history, and then finally the word history. So I hope this is clear to all of you. Here we see that we do not have any script. Okay. In proto-history, we often put only one civilization, that is Harappan. But from interview point of view, I want to make it clear in front of you. Some historians even put Vedic period within the proto-history. What could be the reason for that? When do we see the development of script in Indian history? It starts in 6th century BC. The Vedas, which were made from 1500 BC to 600, Rig Veda, Sam, Yajur and Atharva Veda, all of these, they were in oral tradition. They were not written during the Vedic period. They were written later on when we were having access to script. That's why some historians even put Vedic period within the proto-history phase. Alright, is it clear? So just for the sake of understanding, you should know it. But generally, we only put Harappan civilization during the proto-history phase, because later on this was written down. Now, another important thing, for proto-history, there are two types of traditions. The viewpoint of historian, I hope it is clear to all of you, that proto-history means script is there, but it is not deciphered. So, script becomes the fundamental principle on the basis of which deciphered script that we divide into proto-history. But for archaeologists, they use the beginning of metal. Okay, once we see the beginning of metal, they consider it as part of proto-history. So archaeologists even include your Chalcolithic period within the proto-history, because we see the use of copper. Why this understanding is required, that proto-history is different from the point of view of historian and from the point of view of archaeologist. Why? Because sometimes question can also come from this understanding, and at that point of time you should not just write this point. Since they do not have a script is not deciphered, it should be part of proto-history. I'll show you a question also when we'll discuss the Chalcolithic period. I'll show you a question also in which this understanding was demanded by UPSC. So what you have to keep in mind, the beginning of the metal, the first metal was copper, so once we see the beginning of the copper, so archaeologists consider that as part of proto-history. They do not differentiate it on the basis of script, which is done by the historians. Alright, let us come to the third part, that is history. So it means script plus it is also deciphered. We do not have the same age for North and South India. In North India, the roughly beginning of the historical period is from 6th to 5th century BC, but for South India, the beginning of the script or the historical period, it belongs to 4th to 3rd century BCE. This is what I want all of you to understand, that the history is not a unilinear pattern in India. India is a very large geography. That's why the beginning of the script on a larger scale may take some difference between North India and South India. So suppose if you are sitting in the interview hall and panelist is asking you that did historical period in India started at the same time? Even though we are studying it in the first class of outline, this is going to be important for you there. And if you are able to answer like this, sir, historical period in India has different time period for North India as well as South India. On the basis of script, we see the development 5th to 6th century BC in North India and South 4th to 3rd. Your clarity will give you very high marks. And these basic blocks are required because we cannot differentiate कि भाई PT में क्या आएगा, mains में क्या आएगा, or what they will ask in the interview or the personality test. All three we have to cover. We can escape this topic for your mains easily, but I'm not going to do so. The reason being, you should have a complete learning which can help you at all the stages, चाहे वो prelims हो, चाहे वो आपका optional mains में आता हो, चाहे in the personality test. All of you understand this, that all of you have to prepare history optional very well for personality test also. You will be asked these types of questions there, which are very fundamental. Like even if I ask you the basic question, even though you have enrolled for history option, what is history? What is history? Like suppose you are from arts background, you have done history honors, उसके बाद आपने MA कर लिया, उसके बाद आप optional भी पढ़ रहे हो, and you are not able to give a good definition of what is history. What kind of personality are you having? So these basic building blocks which we are discussing, ये बहुत जरूरी है आप लोगों के लिए. Is it clear to all of you? और इसको संभाल के रखना है, because the moment you clear means आपको फिर से इसके ऊपर फोकस करना पड़ेगा. Even though we'll help you there also, what to do, what not to do, etc. Anyway, so I hope this first phase is clear to all of you. Paleolithic period, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and then we have is the Chalcolithic period. Now, there are large number of prehistoric sites in India, large number. Okay, and when we have done the map, तो हमने हर किसी को parts में divide करके किया था, finish. Alright, so for the map, since I have taken the 5 classes separately, अब हम उस sites के ऊपर एक एक करके focus नहीं करेंगे. We'll only discuss those sites which are important for collation of the information. Is it clear? So that we are going to do. All of you are going to enroll now. Eventually you have to see those lectures. एक बार उनको देख लेना, so that class के साथ में आपको और अच्छा समझ में आए. The reason being, जितना अच्छे से आप मैप करोगे उतना ही अच्छा आपके आंसर में भी आप ड्रॉ कर पाओगे. That is how it is. So there are various prehistoric sites in India, and prehistoric का meaning क्या हुआ? Suppose this becomes a keyword in your map, prehistoric site. So it could include your Paleolithic, Mesolithic as well as Neolithic, and some sites of Chalcolithic also, which do not have any kind of relationship with Harappan civilization. तो वो भी उसके अंदर आ जाए. So there are large number of prehistoric sites, various important archaeological sites we have seen under sub different like Burzahom, Mehergarh. I hope you are aware of, like, these are the maps of NCERT. Okay, like Toldi Hava, okay, Chiran, Daojali, Harding, है ना? From the northeast we had discussed this one site specifically because the chances of its repetition are very high. Then Inamgaon, Brahmagiri, Peyampali, Adachanalur, Halur, all the maps of the NCERT, your Upinder Singh, etc., etc., all these books have already been given to you in that notes. So you don't have to do anything for the map. Is that clear to all of you? उसी के ऊपर stick करेंगे, we will not shift. Alright. When we see the Neolithic sites, so we have famous like Burzahom, Kiligul Muhammad, Mehergarh, Chiran, etc., etc. These are given, and we have covered it entirely. So our focus when we will be discussing these topic would be on the questions rather than on the map, because map we have done entirely very well. Second part, Harappan civilization. So normally when we see your syllabus, okay, syllabus को देखते हैं. See your syllabus. The first part is sources, archaeological and literary sources. Then comes prehistory and proto-history. Okay. So first part, sources. There are two types, archaeological and literary. Within archaeological, okay, जो इनिशियल फेज है आपका, क्या क्या आता है, what all is included in the archaeology? We do not see the beginning of inscription in the prehistory period. We do not see the beginning of the coinage also. So it means the archaeology of the prehistoric period is something entirely different. Even though see your syllabus, क्या लिखा है इन्होंने? Exploration, excavation. So excavation is something which is going to provide you information. Okay. Epigraphy, numismatic monuments, all these three are a bit later on. Exploration, yes. So the initial prehistoric archaeology which we have to depend upon, it's going to be what things? Very good. Fossils. Like if you want to read evolution of human being, क्या चाहिए आपको? You have to see the human skeletons. You have to see that. So human fossils. Okay. Then tell me, what all is archaeology, part of archaeology which we have to depend for understanding the prehistory. Okay, to understand the cultural life, we can go for the Mesolithic paintings. Yes, then very good. We had already seen that we have divided the period on the basis of tools. Then what else? Okay. So even for Chalcolithic, we will see the various metals which will come later on. Then can we see that the remnants of the crops? Yes. So agriculture products में like we'll have the crops. Okay. We can also see pottery. We can also see pottery. What else? And animal remains also. Fossils दो part में divide कर देते हैं, human and animals. What else? You have to understand these things because उसके बिना sources हम नहीं समझ पाएंगे. Yes. Very good. So, what kind of settlements can be seen? Like the creation of the artificial homes. Initially, we lived in the natural caves, but from Mesolithic period onward, we started constructed our own home. Even then, they are made of mud. So, settlements, the kind of villages that we created in Neolithic period, all this is the part of the archaeology. Okay, archaeology which help us in understanding the prehistory period. Alright, archaeology also has these two important topics, numismatics and inscription. But inscriptions are going to largely start in India from the time of the Ashoka. Ashoka का ही major inscriptions है. That will be a trendsetter. Then if we see in terms of coinage also, the initial coinage, they were punch marked coins. And these punch marked coins belongs to which period? Again the Mahajanapada period, 6th to 5th century BC. So before 6th century BC, even India was invaded by two important, you can say the monarchs. One was the Alexander, the other was Darius. So Darius inscriptions have also mentioned about India. Even if we take that into consideration, so the initial information about India through inscription will again go to 6th century BC. So before 6th century BC, we were not having these inscriptions, and I am not including Harappan civilization because for Harappa also we have some inscription, but they are not deciphered. तो उनका कोई meaning समझ में आता ही नहीं है. We are only talking about the usable ones. And when we see the numismatics, so roughly we can say both of them 6th to 5th century BC. Before that, the archaeology was this. This is the archaeology which is going to help you out for understanding the Palaeolithic period, for understanding the Mesolithic as well as the Neolithic period. This is important because if a question comes on the archaeological sources which helps us in understanding the prehistoric period, this can be a very easy question. Elaborate upon the archaeological sources which helps us in understanding the prehistoric period. So can you write about all this? है ना? Like if you have to talk about every single thing, fossil में हम क्या क्या लिखेंगे? We can talk about, like we have Narmada skull, है ना? Narmada skull is there. So from there we Hathnora is the place. Then we have Odai. From there what do we have? Baby skull is there, है ना? Or we also have the Pune. So examples निकल जाएंगे आराम से, right? Then with respect to paintings, which all places do we have? Famous one, Bhimbetka and Adamgarh. We can write about their themes also. What kind of themes are there? Hunting, dancing, community, family life, है ना? ये सारा आपका paintings में theme होगा. Tools, we have three categories of tools, है ना? Core, flake and blade in the Paleolithic period. In the Mesolithic we have microlith. In Neolithic we have cell tools, tools with handles and polishing. Next we see metals. Metals only become from the Chalcolithic period. Then we see crops. So crops, the wild crops can be seen from the Mesolithic period onwards, okay, but it is Neolithic period from where we see the remnants of the crops. Like if we see examples of Mehergarh, there we found cotton. If we see Koldi Hawa, we see rice, है ना, मिलता है हमें. Or even if we see Lahore, where we see the wheat. So this is how we see settlements. All of you know the various important places of the Paleolithic, Mesolithic and Neolithic period. So in Paleolithic, the famous sites includes, if we start from Kashmir, we have Pahalgam, है ना. Delhi के आसपास क्या है? Anandpur. We can say Rajasthan में हो तो Didwana is one of them. All right. If we go towards Maharashtra, there we can find Patne, right? If we go towards even Tamil Nadu, there we have Atirampakam. So एक तीन हम मैप बना सकते हैं for settlements, important sites. Mesolithic के लिए like famous we have Bhagor in Bhilwara district of Rajasthan. We can even write Kalpi, Chopani Mando, Sarai Nahar Rai, Sangana Kalu in Karnataka. So map भी आपको बनाना सीखना है. Is it clear to all of you? Learn how to draw a map of India, and that too very quickly. 30-35 seconds. Please write it down. The single most game changer for you in getting the highest marks would be this map making ability. I will teach you in every class which kind of map can be created where. But you have to first learn how to make a map. Is it clear? Because look, passive तरीके से information लेना is very easy. Once you yourself become a man on mission or woman on mission, you will get the results. You will get the results. I'm going to always tell you the skills which you have to imbibe and polish. Okay. Then with respect to pottery, we can always mention handmade pottery has been found at some places like Langnach, but largely the wheel based pottery is found at the Neolithic sites. So if this very basic question comes, okay, how archaeology helps us in understanding the prehistoric man, can you write all these points with subheadings? All of this will become your subheading. I'm just trying to dissect that this archaeology can be divided into two parts, largely the archaeology of the prehistoric period and then the rest. Like when we will discuss about the proto-history period, the proto-history period mostly is going to include Harappan Civilization. So here also majority of our understanding is on the basis of archaeology. What all have we found from Harappan Civilization, which is very easy for all of us, obvious. Like we have city planning, division into citadel and then later into the lower town. Then we have the construction of roads. Okay. Then we have the drainage system. Tell me next thing. ठीक है. So great bath we have found. Then like if we talk about the religion, we have found like mother goddess, bearded priests, etc., etc. So that dimension will help you in understanding the religion of the Harappans. Okay, we have found seals, sealings, which helps in authentication of the property. We have found some artifacts which helps in understanding how Harappa used to have big trade networks even with the West Asia, Mesopotamia, etc., etc. So specifically archaeology, which is important for understanding the Harappan civilization, is a bit different from the prehistoric history. Is it clear now? Here also we are going to use some of these. I'm not saying कि ये यहाँ पे काम का नहीं है. When we will try to understand the population diversity of Harappa, we have to depend upon the human fossils. Like the Aryan theory, है ना? आप सबने सुना होगा Aryan theory is there, that the Harappan civilization declined because of Aryan invasion. How is that theory formed in the first place? We have found 37 skeletons from Mohenjo-daro from one room. So eventually what they have done, they have used the human fossils to formulate a theory. Then they have found a name which was similar to Harappa, Haryupia, which is given in Rig Veda, and they have connected both. And then they have reached that theory. So yes, fossil will be there. Whatever form of paintings that these people have on their pottery, the famous pottery is black and red ware. So that will also be used. Even the tools which are made by the Harappans, like we found the ubiquitous absence of the weapons. We have not found many weapons from Harappans. So that provides some information about this civilization, that people were largely peace loving. Let us focus on love life. Okay. So that how do we come to these kinds of interpretation? On the basis of archaeology. Okay. We found here the use of bronze, we also get information about from the various sites, like Rojdi is one site from where we found the agriculture of Harappans. Okay, from Kalibangan we found the evidence of a plowed field. From Banavali we found the model का है ना, model मिलता है हमें of a plow. So all these things, settlements etc. will help, but additionally we'll also have all these things for Harappan civilization. So the archaeology's ambit will increase. So these are the more dimensions which will help you in understanding the Harappan civilization. Is it clear? Am I clear to all of you? Okay, today what we are trying to do, I am trying to create a framework for you, that even though the first topic is sources, how to understand sources, I am not even going to the interpretations of the sources. That is where the main debate is going to lie. We are just trying to understand, okay, so far it is exploration and excavation which is helping us. Excavation is going on at, like Harappa was the first site to be excavated, then Mohenjo-daro, largest site right now is Rakhigadi. So how did it happen? On the basis of excavation, and whatever things that we have found, they have found on the basis of exploration. So these terms exploration, excavation have specific meanings which we have to understand on the basis of all this. Alright, so if we talk about Harappan period, there also we have three phases. The first phase is known as the early Harappan phase. Early Harappan phase because we see the beginning of some form of urbanization. Okay, most important sites here are going to be Amri and Kot Diji. These two are the proto-urban sites. Then we see the mature phase, 2600 to roughly you can say 17 also, 19 also, because of as per different archaeologies it is different. Anyway, the important thing for us in the mature Harappan phase, we see two most prominent sites. First, same kind of script, and second, same level of urbanization or different same kind of features of urbanization. Okay, two sites, the most prominent site for Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Whatever objects from where we have found script, more than 80% is found from these two places of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. Why? What could be the reason for that? Like suppose if we are imagining about today's world, है ना, books हमें हर जगह मिल जाएंगे, even in the villages. It means the percolation of education and script has reached the last mile. But in Harappan civilization, since it was limited to Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, majority of it, so we can come to some kind of inference that script का जो percolation है, that is relatively on the lesser side. So we get these kind of understanding only when we use such kind of facts. Plus, the moment the civilization world has these two essential elements, script and urbanization, when the declining phase will start, we'll see abandonment of script as well as urbanization. So when we'll understand the early phase, mature phase and the late Harappan phase, we have to understand which are the important sites from where we get the evidences of that, and from where we can go towards the transition phase. Like in the map, I told you multiple times, the late Harappan phase can be found in Gujarat region, or it can be found in the eastern part, like eastern Haryana and towards the western UP. These are the areas where we found the maximum number of settlements of late Harappan phase. Okay, so वो समझ में आपको तभी आएगा when you have that basic level understanding. So if you can see, this is the roughly area of Harappan sites. All right. This is the area where we have seen the major evolution. Okay, later on they shifted towards Gujarat and then went towards this area. All right. So when we will discuss Harappa, in Harappa we have to discuss each and everything in detail. The level of detailing would be very high because UPSC is also asking question from this every year. So I want all of you to understand, like you can see easily, these are the trade networks which were developed by the Harappans. Harappa script has not been deciphered, but the Mesopotamian script has been deciphered. So we found some record of the Harappans even in the literary sources, but they are not indigenous, they are foreign. So they provide information about what was imported from this area and what was exported to this place. Okay, and they use the word Meluha. Meluha was the word which I used for Harappan civilization. So that also will take into consideration, because UPSC asks various questions, like that information that we have about Harappan civilization is only on the basis of archaeological sources. But these are the exceptions which we have to mention in the answer. Yes, there are literary sources also, but not from our own civilization. It is from the contemporary civilization, that is the Mesopotamia. So for that we have to learn to make these 1 or 2 extra map also, which will help us in giving a realistic answer in the exam hall. Alright. So these are the major places: Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and even Rakhigadi. Alright, the most prominent ones. Alright, these are what we are going to study later on. So one thing which you have realized by now, that the first part of the syllabus, sources archaeological, this is not only limited to the first part, this is related to your prehistory, proto-history, related to your Indus Valley civilization. Okay, from the beginning of, even in the megalithic cultures, from the Vedic period, we see the more focus on literary sources. We see the literary sources. So initially the literary sources were Vedas, which provide information about the early Vedic period based upon Rig Veda, and later Vedic period on the basis of Sam, Yajur, and Atharvaved. Okay. Then we see the rise of Buddhism and Jainism. So Buddhism and Jainism also have their own literature, right? They have their own literature, which is very prominent, that provide information starting from which century? Starting from 6th century BC. We have just discovered this thing also, that we see the rise of inscription as well as numismatic from the 6th to 5th century BC onwards. So starting from 6th century onwards, we can go for corroboration. What is the meaning of corroboration? Very good. So corroboration means something can be verified from 2 sources at least. Like whatever we know about Harappan civilization, it is on the basis of only mostly archaeological sources. So if somebody says this is the political organization of the Harappans, can you verify that? No. Like initial person, one of them was Stuart Pigot. Stuart Pigot said Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were the 2 capitals, and this was a very big civilization, and they had priest kings. अब ये मनगढ़ंत कहानी है. Can somebody verify it? Right now, no. But when somebody talks about Buddhism and Jainism, we found the artifacts also, means we have the archaeology to support it, and we also have the literary sources. If it is verified from 2 sources, it is known as corroboration. The kind of problem that we have in the Harappan civilization gets completely reversed during the Vedic period. For the Vedic period, we largely have the literary sources, but we do not have much archaeological evidence. So here whatever is written in the literary sources, we do not have means to verify all of them. Again the problem comes that we do not have corroboration. Now whatever is mentioned in your Vedic literature, if it is true or if it is not true, how to verify that? So that's why UPSC asks you this question. Okay, to what extent Vedic literature can be used as a source of history? So it means every source has certain characteristics which helps you in understanding कि वो हिस्ट्री के लिए यूज कर सकते हैं या फिर नहीं कर सकते. Let me give you a basic framework. whenever we see a source, it can be archaeological, it can be literary. It should have certain features. Okay, certain features. So what are those features? Can you help me? क्या क्या होना चाहिए? सोर्स का फीचर कैसा होना चाहिए? So that it can provide very good information. If we know about the author, it will certainly help. It will certainly. Why? Like suppose I am a king, है ना? And I am making people write about myself in my own court. Would that be biased or unbiased? Biased, naturally. But if you are an author and you're writing about me, all right, like then the chances of being unbiased are always going to increase. Like Kalhana did not live in the court of the king. So whatever Kalhana has written, it is relatively more unbiased. So if we know about the background of the author, will that increase the validity of the source? Yes. So we should know that who is the author. It is very important. Second, it's about the integrity of the source. You have written a book, some of the pages, they are not there. Will I get the complete sense of out of it? There was one traveler, Megasthenes. He was from Greece, came to India, lived in the court of Chandragupta Maurya for 5 years, written a wonderful book known as Indica, but that Indica is lost. If you are using Indica as a source of history, you should know it does not have integrity of the text. Whatever was written by him then was eventually incorporated by other writers like Arrian, Strabo, and whatever information is there, it doesn't hold integrity as a parameter. So every source you should know to what extent it is having integrity. Like inscriptions में क्या होता है, integrity ज़्यादा रहता है, because changing them or altering them is not that much easy. We can easily see. Rig Veda has how many books? 10 books, है ना? 2 to 7 we say they are the earliest books. 1, 8, 9, 10 we often say they belong to the later Vedic period. How do we come to know? Writing style, yes, we have seen that. We have also seen the features of the age also, like features of the 2 to 7 for polity, economy, society, they are matching, and for the rest they are later interpolations. So here also we are able to understand that Rig Veda also has some issues of integrity. तो सोर्स का देखो इंटीग्रिटी होना चाहिए. पुलिस वाले की तरह सोचो, you have a source who is going to provide you information. आप उससे credibility पे जाओगे कि नहीं जाओगे कि आया कहां से है? Somebody has given you a tip, sir, in this area all these illegal activities are going on. If you will consider it with seriousness or not, it depends upon which person is giving it. Second, you'll see if that information has certain kind of grounding in the political economic environment of that area. या सच है झूठ है? Somebody is telling me, sir, Naxal attack is going to happen. मैं आपको पूरा evidence ला के देता हूँ, ठीक है? That person provides you some electronic evidence in which the designing etc is going on. You will take that seriously? और किसी ने सिर्फ आके बोला कि अब सर कुछ होने वाला है. Which will you take seriously? So just imagine whatever source we have for the interpretation of history, it should have first the credibility of author, second integrity of the source, third we should know the time period of that source before applying it to any specific time period. Like there are debates with respect to Arthashastra, if Arthashastra belongs to Mauryan period or Gupta period. Eventually majority of the historians, they have come to the understanding that it should belong to Mauryan. Similar debates keep on going for Rig Veda. Some say it belongs to 3000 BC. The rest say no. Eventually we have settled down for 1500 to 1000 BC. So if you are not aware of the time period of that source, will it give you the basic understanding of the society of that time period? No, it will not. So we should be completely aware about the time period of that source. Puranas have large amount of stories. Ramayana, Mahabharata, They also have various, they are known as epics. All of you understand this? Can we validate each and everything which is written in Ramayana and Mahabharata today? No. But there are some elements of truth which could be there, which you and me, I today do not know. So we should have understanding of the time period. Then only we can understand the basics of that source. Am I making sense to all of you? I am increasing the level today. The overview requires whatever we know about ancient India, we do not have many conclusions. Why we do not have conclusions? Because the understanding of the source are always less. Agar India ke, if you want to know about complete prehistory of India, we should excavate whole of India. Can you do that? Nobody can do that today. Because eventually, even for knowing about the city of Delhi, हमें ऐसा बताना पड़ेगा कि first excavation will happen, we'll know about history, then we'll think. So it is not feasible. All the approaches that we use for understanding our sources are limited by one or the other factor. That's why we should know. I have not even introduced you कि भाई primary source क्या होता है, secondary source. We'll go to that. But first we'll try to understand कि source should have certain characteristics so that it can be used for understanding as a source of history. Then, if that source has corroboration, can it increase the findings? है ना, जो भी findings है उसको validate कर पाएगा. If that source has some form of validation, it's a very good source. We should also know, just like the time period, the geographical area for which we can use that source, so that the Vedic period characteristics, we should not attach them to Deccan, we should not link them to South India, because Vedic period is specifically tell you about the geography of certain area. So whenever we use any source for understanding the history, we should have certain parameters. These things are not given in your books. This is the practical aspect, how a source can be easily understood. And even if you do not know about any source, you can generate points on the basis of this understanding. Please make a list. Please make a list of this. Okay? Please make a list. Whenever UPSC will ask you a question, can we use Arthashastra as a source of history? So, can we use the debate of time period? Can we tell about what's the geographical area where it may have been written? Can we write who is the author? Okay. Can we understand about the integrity of the source also? Can we see the corroboration? Like whatever is written in the Arthashastra, do we find some kind of corroboration in the inscriptions of Ashoka? Can we see some form of corroboration in the writings of Megasthenes? So the basic framework of sources is always going to stay the same. It's not going to change. But every time we have to come up with certain understanding so that आपको जब वो क्वेश्चन मिलेगा आप एग्जैक्ट वो पॉइंट लिखो. Everywhere all the points are not going to be valid. Like if we see in your initial prehistory, their archaeology का जो author है, in maximum cases we will not know. Will not know, but for the inscription we may know, like for the Ashoka's inscription or even the Allahabad's famous inscription of Samudragupta, we know about the author, किसने बनाया है. Even your integrity part, किस किस केस में होगा किस में नहीं होगा. Naturally जो integrity होता है वो archaeological sources में ज़्यादा होता है. The more problem is in the literary sources. Alright, so sources, they are of two types, archaeological and literary sources. In India, when we try to understand the history through literary sources, a very challenging problem comes. A very challenging problem. Whatever sources you have, just see them. Vedas, है ना? Linked to later Brahmanism or Hinduism later on, Buddhism, Jainism. Maximum literary sources, they are of religious nature. So, finding out history on the basis of them is very difficult for us. Like in Puranas, if you try to understand what is the history going on, it's very difficult to understand. They have come up with the famous concept of युग. सबने सुना है? सतयुग है, then your Treta Yug, then Dwapara, and currently we are living in the Kali Yuga. अभी युग का कंसेप्ट क्या है किसी को नहीं समझ में आता, बिकॉज इट इज ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ सम रिलीजियस अंडरस्टैंडिंग, इट इज नॉट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द साइंटिफिक थिंग्स. फ्यूचर में कभी साइंटिफिक वो होगा तो बात अलग है, बट सो फार द मैनर इन विच वी आर सीइंग द एज, इट्स डिफिकल्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ पुराणास. द लिस्ट गिवन बाय द पुराणास, इट इज इनकंसिस्टेंट. Like if they give all the kings of the Mauryas, it is different in your Matsya Puran, it is different in Vayu Puran. So Puranas itself has a level of inconsistency because their main aim was not to transfer the historical information. Their aim was with respect to the religion. Religious knowledge is something which they were trying to spread from one part to another. So all the literary sources that we have in India, they can be divided into largely two parts. They can be religious sources and they can be secular. Okay, so this is one of the understanding of the literary sources. All right, one more distinction which we often have in sources is primary sources versus secondary sources. Even though this is mentioned in your syllabus, as such कोई question इस पे आता नहीं है because it's too easy. Primary sources means the information which is provided that source is contemporary. Like when Kautilya provide information about Maurya, this becomes a primary source. But when Rajatarangani provide information about Mauryas, it becomes a secondary source because Rajatarangani belongs to 12th century. It is providing information about 3rd or the 4th century BC. So all such sources which are not contemporary, which has not witnessed the events live, they are going to be part of secondary source. Some sources can be primary for certain age or secondary for the second, like Rajatarangani. When it provide information about 12th century Kashmir, it is a primary source, but for the rest of the information which does not belong to the 12th century, it is a secondary source. This is what basic. Majority of the archaeological sources, they are going to be part of primary source because human skeleton तो उसी age का होगा, right? Pottery will belong to the same age. Only in few inscriptions, like when we see the inscriptions of Guptas, so some information is provided for the previous period, so that becomes a secondary source, but largely in majority of the case it is going to be primary source. So this is the concept of primary versus secondary source. Okay, within literary source, religious versus secular. Within secular you can have all other subcategories like scientific, literature, etc, etc. Let us just see your syllabus. So just see, exploration, excavation is clear to all of you. Epigraphy, numismatic, we had discussed previously also. Monuments, literary, indigenous. So those which are written by the authors of India, they are indigenous. Okay, primary and secondary is clear, and majority of our literature, it is poetry. Like if you see Vedas, it is written in the poetic form. Only the Yajurved has prose plus poetry. Prose मतलब क्या होता है, जैसे हम normally books में आपका content होता है, and poetry थोड़ा सा मसाला लगा के बढ़िया से, है ना, जैसे बॉलीवुड के गाने होते हैं, that is more like poetry. So the information interpretation becomes difficult, है ना. Like then we have scientific literature. Scientific literature includes like the writings of Aryabhat, writing of Charak, writing of Sushruta. So the information that they provide, it becomes part of scientific literature. The literature also has keep on changing the languages. Like initial most famous language, it was your classical Sanskrit. Then we see the larger imbibe of Prakrit. Okay. Then again we see the rise of Sanskrit later on. But the regional languages also started becoming emerging, and most dramatic boom was during the early medieval period. So we see the rise of like Marathi, all these important languages. So we also try to understand literature in regional languages of South India, like the Sangam age. The major language that we have is Tamil. Okay. Later on during the Christian era, we see the emergence of Kannada language. Okay. The other languages has come a bit later on. So we'll see that in different languages, religious, foreign accounts. We have three categories of foreign accounts. There we have the Greek, the initial one. Okay. Then we see the Chinese, है ना, three most favorite, है ना, they are Huayan, Hunseng and Itzing. So whatever information is given by them about different age, which we'll try to incorporate along with the topics. And finally we have the Arab writers. So Arab writers, they will become prominent from the early medieval period. So this is what the topic of sources is. But sources is something which is going to play a very important role in your answer writing. Please write it down somewhere. Sources, whatever information you write in your paper one, whatever information write in any question, you have to mention the source. Like when you write, okay, that the fossils का ये characteristic है, you have to mention it is found from Hathnora. When you're writing, we have found wheel-based pottery, you have to mention from Mehergarh. So mentioning sources is a very important in your paper one, and most importantly in ancient India. The reason is majority of the topics, they are still not conclusive. Like in modern India, सबको पता है what happened in the battle of Plassey. It's not that much relevant, है ना, सबको पता है कि what happened in the World War. Interpretation can vary, but source करने का जरूरत नहीं ना कि World War हुआ था कि नहीं हुआ था, right? But here the problem is we do not even know if it was there or not there. Like if you are dealing a question with the political system of Harappa, so 5 historians will say different points of views. So you have to mention the source. On what basis they are saying that? That what basis is what source is. So in your paper one, in every questions that I have shown you, चाहे वो हरप्पा का हो, चाहे उपनिषद हो, चाहे कुछ भी हो, you have to mention the sources in your answers. If you will mention sources in your answer in paper one, you are going to score very high marks. This is the first principle of answer writing of paper one. Let me be very frank, answer writing is always going to be different in paper one and paper two. In paper one, mandatorily you have to mention the sources. Without this, it will be just like a story. कि बहुत पहले ऐसा हुआ था. Why should I accept it? Because I also have some counter questions. So I can only say okay if you mention the source, or if you mention the historian who has said that specific point of view, which we'll discuss. Like suppose you're writing an answer about Neolithic period. You say it is a Neolithic revolution. भाई ऐसे कैसे Neolithic revolution मान ले? But then you say Neolithic revolution as said by V. Child. So it becomes clear to me it is not your own mangarad kahani. This is said by someone academically, and that's what you're using in your paper one. So mentioning sources, the viewpoints of historians, they are very important in ancient India. Like when UPSC is going to ask you what was the nature of Dhamma. Dhamma, you understand, basic topic, the set of do's and don'ts, all right, but that has many interpretations. Romila Thapad may say it was a political tool, है ना? S.C. Chaudhary may say it is nothing but nothing new, it was a collation of various ideas of various religions. Some say it was in necessity a Buddhism itself. So when you write these 4 point of views, you have to mention the source. कि भाई किसने कहा है, who has said this, and this is something which you have to develop once you are able to understand the topics. This is the second level. So I hope the first topic of sources is clear to all of you. In prehistory it is very easy, geographical factors, hunting, gathering, beginning of agriculture. See Indus Valley Civilization, we have to understand the debate on its origin, है ना? There are various debates, like one is it was made by the Sumerian, other it is developed by the Vedic Aryan, the third is it is an indigenous evolution. So that we will see date, extent, characteristics, why it declined, and to what extent it survives, है ना? And what is the art and architecture with respect to this. So I hope you are able to understand a little bit about what is a source. Is it clear? इसको और क्लैरिफाई करेंगे धीरे धीरे करके, बिकॉज द क्लासेज ऑन द सोर्सेज विल बी एटलीस्ट 3 to 4 क्लासेस, कम से कम 3 से 4 होंगी, एंड विल डिस्कस एक्सटेंसिवली अबाउट द आर्कोलॉजिकल सोर्सेज, लिटरेरी सोर्सेज, फिर कुछ सोर्सेज हम वी हैव टू डू अलॉन्ग विद द टॉपिक्स ऑल्सो. So in whole paper 1, irrespective of ancient India or medieval India, you have to focus on the sources. Okay, let me take some doubts from the online students. Yes, Lalit, correct. The sources should be unbiased. He's saying that. Easily decipherable, right? That is also geography also. All right, exaggeration of yes, that happens. All right, so very good. Anyway, is it clear so far? आपको टॉपिक समझ में आ गई कहां से ज्यादा यूपीएससी पूछता है? The first major topic is sources, because sources is where we have a lot of depth, and your first chapter of Upinder Singh is going to deal naturally with the sources. तो इसलिए आपको वो एक बार पढ़ लोगे तो ठीक है, नोट्स नहीं बनाने हैं. इज इट क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू? नोट्स बनाने बैठोगे अपना पूरा दिन खराब कर लोगे, शाम को मुझे गाली दोगे, अगले दिन ऑप्शनल को गाली दोगे. दिस इज हाउ इट्स गोइंग टू हैपन. सो प्लीज फॉलो दीज recommended advices. I want all of you to take minimum amount of pain for success. आपको अपनी अच्छे से स्ट्रेटजी को डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा. When I'm going to teach you answer writing, then start with the answer writing. Because if you start on your own without understanding the basic framework, you're writing answer, you're very happy, आज 5 आंसर लिखे, आज 6 लिखे. एक टॉपर ने बोला था रोज 6 आंसर लिखोगे तो 6th रैंक आएगी. ऐसा नहीं होगा. You have to first understand how to write answers. For that you have to cover a little bit of syllabus also. If I'll give you a question on the sources, क्या लिख लोगे? अभी तक समझे ही नहीं है. अभी तक हमने ओवरव्यू दिया आपको कि भाई क्या होता है सोर्स. Then along with this we have the Chalcolithic period, right? Some of the Chalcolithic period, they were contemporary with the Harappans, like you can see Ahar culture, Kayatha culture, and even the Savalda. Okay, but you see these, okay, चाहे मालवा कल्चर देखो, चाहे जॉर्वे कल्चर, प्रभास पतन, और इवन योर रंगपुर, दे आर मोस्टली टुवर्ड्स द डिक्लाइनिंग फेज ऑफ हरप्पन सिविलाइजेशन. तो यहाँ से एज सच क्वेश्चन नहीं आता है, मोस्टली फेमस फॉर योर मैप, बट विल डिस्कस कि व्हाई दीज पीपल मोस्टली फोकस ऑन कॉपर मेटल एंड डिड नॉट यूज ब्रॉन्ज. व्हाट वर द रीजंस फॉर दैट? व्हाट वर द फीचर्स ऑफ दीज पीपल? ओके, बिकॉज दे आल्सो डू नॉट हैव स्क्रिप्ट. We also depend upon the archaeological sources largely, है ना? And that's why the information that we have about them is on the basis of their settlements, on the basis of human skeletons, on the basis of whatever things that they have left behind. So whatever human remains that we have, we'll see that in the for the Chalcolithic period. So roughly आप timeline देखोगे, भीमबेटका, है ना, मेहरगढ़, अर्ली हरप्पन, मैच्योर, लेट हरप्पन, फिर आपका then we shift towards the Vedic period, then we have later Vedic, then we shift towards Mahajanapada, along with the rise of Jainism, Buddhism, then we shift towards the other parts of Indian history. तो आपको एक रफ टाइमलाइन अपने दिमाग में बनानी है. All right. After the Harappan period, we see shift towards Vedic period. This is the point from where the questions are going to increase. There are so many controversies with respect to the Vedic period. Like the first itself, were they Indian or were they came from the outside? Whatever social system that you see today, it starts from Vedic period. Whatever religion that we talk about today, even though some of those elements were even in the Harappan civilization, largely the ideological part of it starts from Vedic period. Vedic period is the area from where we see the connected literary sources. Before this we do not have literary sources as such, and that's why from this time onwards we have a narrative about the polity, economy, society, religion, and that helps in understanding in a better manner, because whatever information that we have eventually वो बहुत ही limited है. We can only see what people were doing on the basis of the archaeological sources, but the manner in which they were doing we can only see on the basis of literary sources. We cannot know about their thinking, what they were thinking, on the basis of archaeological sources. So that's why literary sources become very important for understanding that what kind of political institutions were there. Like when we will discuss about the Vedic period, we'll see that there were Sabha and Samiti. What were the functions of them? From this is the time period from when we will see what was the relationship between men and women in the society. Which features were patriarchal in nature, which features were show a little bit of dominance of matriarchy. है ना? As a general thumb rule, all of you know, all the historical societies, they have been patriarchal in nature, right? But still, like if we talk about the early Vedic period, there were some elements of equality. Today, all of you know about caste system. This caste system has not started like this. Too much evolution has happened over the period of years. The initial system that we were having was Varna system. This was on the basis of color of the human skin. Okay? Those who were known as Aryans, they were the white people. And those who were non-Aryans, they were the black people. That's why initially the Varna system was on the basis of color, Aryan versus non-Aryan. Then it shifted. You have to understand the basis, how the Varna system kept on changing. Then it shifted to profession. And that profession was linked to Brahmana, if you are indulged in learning, Kshatriya, warfare, Vaishya, other economic activities including agriculture, trade, commerce, and finally Shudra, if you are providing a kind of hospitality service. So, what was initially based on color? By the Rig Veda, we see transformation towards profession, but mobility was there. Like you can change your Varna on the basis of your profession. We'll see some real life example, like one person has specifically mentioned in the Vedas itself that my mother is grinding corn, my father is something, my sister is something. So they have provided an outlook that profession wise, okay, within one house you can have multiple Varna. But later on this shifted to birth. If you are born in the family of a Brahman, you have become Brahman. Kshatriya, Vaishya, and or Shudra. You cannot change it. Okay, you cannot change it. And for this, for the following of this, we see the beginning of a literature known as Dharma Sutras. They started coming up with various kinds of duties which were now given to these people of different Varna. Okay, then the rigidity further increased. The rigidity further increased. Okay, like it was okay to change the Varna till even your later Vedic system, but now people were not appreciating it. You should stay whatever you were born. With the period of time, these four Varnas like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, within these, because of various kinds of marriages, we see the development of jatis. Like all of you know, even within Brahmanas, there are so many jatis, है ना? कोई चतुर्वेदी है, चारों वर्ण जानता है, कोई त्रिवेदी है, तीन वर्ण जानता है, कोई कुछ जानता है, कोई कुछ जानता है. So that's how we see the differentiation within the Brahmanas. कोई सरयू ब्राह्मण है, कोई कन्यकाभुज और कन्नौज का ब्राह्मण है. So what keep on happening? Everybody was now trying to create that we are having the higher authority within the Brahmanas. So from Varna system, we see the development of Jati system. And it started becoming very complex with the period of time. Alright. Now, this whole system of Indian society, it was exclusive in nature. Meaning, if you link anything to birth, तो आप किसी और बाहर को incorporate ही नहीं कर सकते. You cannot do that. So when outsiders started coming, Indo-Greeks, Shakas, now these people have political power. And if you want any kind of patronage from them, you have to assign some form of Varna to these people. Otherwise, कैसे बोलोगे कि these are part of Indian society? So then, ingenious kinds of, you can say, rituals were brought in, like Vrittastoma. through which outsiders were made part of Indian society in different varnas. So the whole complex system of today's India society, all of us feel like यार caste system नहीं होना चाहिए, है ना? It has divided Indian society multiple times. It is being exploited by even by the politicians. But how did it all start? Okay, how did it all start? So it all starts from here, on the basis of color, shifting to your profession, then linking it to your birth. Then it became rigid. Mobility means you can change your varna. Rigidity means people are not allowing you to do so. You must have seen many people who come from the lower part of the caste system, they shift from villages to towns. Why? Because in their village, nobody will allow them mobility. Everybody knows them, है ना? Villages में इसलिए चोरी भी कम होती है, हर कोई हर किसी को जानता है, तो चोर को भी पता पिटाई हो जाएगी. But in urban, there are two apartments. सामने वाला भी हेल्प करने नहीं आएगा जब उनको पता चलेगा कि something of that the kind of activity is going on. So it means oblivion is there in the urban areas. That's why people, when they shift, they also take this into consideration, that the everyday kind of humiliation which often happens because of this caste system can be evaded if they shift from their origin village. क्योंकि urban area में कोई interested नहीं होता इस चीज में. Yet you must have seen, everybody has their own work, but in village हर रोज चौपाल लगती है. Everybody is interested in the issues of others. So it's difficult, है ना? और हर चीज, everything is on the basis of caste system. I hope all of you are aware of it, right? This is how it works. All right. So this whole understanding of Varna system, the relationship between men, women, all of you know the difference between sex and gender. Gender is the kind of responsibility which society provides to you. Since you are a woman, okay, then you have to do all this work. So this becomes your genderization of the role. So all this we'll understand from Vedic period onwards, because we have access to literature. We'll see their political system, to what extent the people are democratic. Alright, so Vedic period onwards divided into two parts. This is also a time period where we see the beginning of the Iron Age. Iron became prominent, and then it will be used in various kinds of activities. It will also be eventually used in the field of warfare later on, which will help the Mahajanapadas later on. Alright, so early Vedic period, I hope this is clear. This was the area where we see the maximum settlements of early Vedic period. It is about Indus and its 5 tributaries, and later on, later Vedic, we see shift towards east. Okay, so various debates with respect to their migration or invasion we have to settle. We have to try to understand the literature also. What are the characteristics of Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, or even Athar Veda. We'll also try to understand how we see the shift of religious ideology from early Vedic period to later Vedic period. In the early Vedic period, maximum people, they were praying for what? आप किस चीज के लिए प्रे करते हो? पास करा देना next year. Most of us are like this. So in early Vedic period, the religion was mostly materialistic in nature. कि एक बार प्री पास करा दो, लड्डू आज के आज. So this is materialistic way. And second, higher ways, higher thinking. Higher thinking में क्या आता? Nirvan. You have linked Nirvan to UPSC. So that's why your Shraddha is always materialistic. Many of us cannot understand how the birth or death की cycle कैसे खत्म होगी. That all of you agree? आप में से कोई है तो नहीं ना, है ना, कि बुद्धा ही बैठा हूँ और मुझे उनसे बात जाना नहीं, गुरुजी शरण में ले लो. So many of us do not know. So majority of us, हमारा किस टाइप का religious outlook है? Our religious outlook is only in terms of what we can get better in life. अच्छा घर, अच्छी गाड़ी, अच्छी नौकरी, अच्छा life partner, all these things. This is what we pray for largely. Why is astrology so much important for Indians? Astrology brings that side of materialistic life, है ना? एक बार तो पंडित जी के पास चले गए शुरुआत में, टोल्ड कि हो जाएगा, लेकिन बिना दक्षिणा नहीं होगा. Because the systems has been created. I'm not saying that कि ये आर्ट सही है नहीं है, that is beyond me. But when we see it in terms of materialism versus the inner important development of the philosophies like karma, philosophy of hell and heaven, we use these words without much understanding. So this is how the religious landscape of India was now in the transition phase from early Vedic to later Vedic. That we'll discuss. Even the gods will change. Initially the gods were Indra, है ना? फिर एकदम से later Vedic आया, इंद्रा कह रहे यार क्या हो गया यार? What happened? Have I committed some sin? है ना? We shifted to the famous Trimurti. है ना? And they now became है ना, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. And Indra said, यार, what happened to my lightning? Huh? You have stolen my thunder. So, religious outlook of people will keep on changing. So, from early Vedic to later Vedic, religion will change, society will change, even economy will change. These people were initially doing for domestication of animals, nomadic. But by later Vedic period, they will shift towards agriculture. Once you are settled, your whole life gets changed. Alright, so all those transitions we have to understand from early Vedic to later Vedic period. And this is what the syllabus of UPSC is for this topic. Understand the transition, societal system, economic systems, how they are going to change. From Vedic period onwards, we are able to create a very connected history. So Vedic period, we'll see polity, economy, society and religion. For the first time, we'll be able to understand them very well. Like, what are the elements of a polity? See the polity of India. We have a constitution, we have an elected government, we have a system of democracy, right? All these things. We have local self-governance, we have a federal government, all those things. So we'll also try to understand the polity of Vedic period on the basis of these kinds of parameters. What are the republics? To what extent women were allowed to participate in the polity? All of you know that the representation of women even in today's parliament is very less, and this is the fundamental reason why the progress is not happening with respect to the women issues. You go to Nordic countries like Sweden, Norway, more than 40-50% of the representation it comes from women. So we also try to understand these things even in ancient India. Alright, like by later Vedic period, women were not allowed to participate in Sabha and Samiti. So that provides an information, okay, that now the choices of the women in the political life are not getting appreciated. We also try to understand what were the powers with the king. Like during the early Vedic period, there was a Rajan, but the large responsibility of that person was more of a military commander. Whenever there is a fight, sabse aage rehna hai. That was the responsibility of Rajan. And protect cows, because cows were very important, because the whole sustenance of this society was on the basis of domestication of animals. The whole dishes, है ना, जैसे नॉर्थ इंडिया का आप खाना देखोगे वो दूध दही मक्खन है ना, that was the main food of the Aryans, right? That's why cows were very important. And even in the wars also, the most prized thing, it was the cows, search for cows, right? So that we will try to understand even in political terms कि भाई how we see the emergence of state. And as all of you know, state has 4 important elements. If you are shifting from one place to another, there is no fixed territory, means there is no state. The first thing which is very important, that you should have a fixed territory. Like today in our constitution, article number 1, everything is mentioned. And what is India? First thing, state. There should be people, or when we have state, the relationship is of that of citizens. Through that you get some rights. We people, then we are going to elect a government, and finally this government is going to exercise sovereignty on people as well as territory. So this whole concept of state, how did it emerge, is something which we have to learn from early Vedic to what extent it was. Like when we talk about government, all of you are preparing for the government exam. So in government exam, the most important thing, what is that? It is bureaucracy. First bureaucracy will be there, and then institutions will be created. Like all of you, you'll go into different services. हर कोई IAS में तो नहीं आने वाला. Once you get selected, some of you may join IPS, some of you will join IRS, some will join even Indian foreign services. So you are handling the diplomatic institutions of India. Some of you will go for the development institution which come under the control of IAS. Some will go for law and order, that is IPS. And as we mentioned by Kautilya, revenue is the foundation of the state. So some of you will go for IRS. Some of you will go for Indian Audit and Account Service. What are these? These are nothing but these are the different kinds of services which are a part of an institutional structure, and for that exam is conducted by UPSC, which itself is an institution. To what extent in these institutions do we have meritocracy? To what extent do we have that previous feudal setup? All of these is going to be part of government. Like when we see the early Vedic period, later Vedic period, the transition is immense, because by later Vedic period we see a fixed territory. Now these people were not moving from one place to another. Okay, then the people were there, but the government was still not having very evolved level of bureaucracy. It was very new. Hardly 16 officers, 16 parts of bureaucracy is mentioned in later Vedic period. In the early Vedic there are hardly 3. And even in terms of sovereignty, we were not having absolute sovereignty at this point of time, because the institution of Rajan itself, which was going to exercise sovereignty, since it was a tribal kind of society, the sovereignty, getting the unquestioned sovereignty will take some time. And this started increasing from later Vedic period, where king now started performing very complex rituals. Famous rituals like Ashwamedha, Rajasuya, Vajapaya, these are the various rituals which were done by the king. Like you also understand that whenever the elections are won by some political party, pura chest thumping chalta hai uske baad mein, and then eventually there is ceremony also, at which time they take the oath, to either become the minister or become the chief minister or even the prime minister. So that is a kind of ceremony, and this was to be conducted even here also. And eventually, after the Vedic period, we see the rise of the Mahajanapadas. We see the rise of these 16 important states which were able to figure out all these 4 parameters of a state. Evolved bureaucracy, which will form the government. Unquestioned power in the hand of king, who will now have the sovereignty. Alright, so all these characteristics will become prominent by Mahajanapadas. But this Mahajanapada did not emerge all of a sudden. During the time of the early Vedic, we had the concept of Jana, or the people. By later Vedic, we had the Janapada, because the territory was fixed. But now we have the Mahajanapada, or the evolved state system, the political system. But at the same time, as we have discussed, this was the transition in polity. We'll also see a transition in economy. What are the institutions of an economy? क्या institution होता है? Tax is mandatory, right? So in early Vedic period, we were not having mandatory taxes. Whatever you wish to offer to the king was there. But by later Vedic period, they started having a permanent taxation structure. By the time of the Mahajanapadas, they were now having complete laws, regulation. Like in India, if you see, you have Income Tax Act, under which you have to pay the direct tax. Indirect taxes are also there, like GST. So taxation is the most important part for running the economy. What is the role of state in the economic activities? Like why state is going with Startup India, Skill India? Why? What's the reason behind it? Because they want to increase the value in the life of people. They'll have more jobs. India as a country will move forward. Okay, so that concept of development specifically was not that much there in the ancient India, because development was only from the perspective of only one person, which was the ruling dynasty, and most importantly the king or the queen. So even in economy we'll see transition. At the time of the Vedic period, we were mostly dependent upon the barter system. This barter system will eventually change, and we'll see the emergence of coins. So monetization of economy with the punch marked coins will start from here. Once we see the emergence of script, so you'll also have the bookkeeping. Bookkeeping will start from here. All of you know accounts is very important for economics, right? So this will start from your 6th century BCE. Whenever there is change in economy, it will also have an impact on society. Those people now who are having more money, will they care about caste system or not? If they are at the lower level of caste system, they'll always say our status should rise and it should be commensurate with our money, with our wealth. So that's why from 6th century BC, with the change of economy, tensions also increase in the society, and this was naturally going to have an impact on religion. This is the time where people started becoming dissatisfied with the Vedic religion, their rituals, okay, which were hindering even the progress of economy. All of you know banking institutions are very important for every economy, है ना? Because what they do, circulation of money, mobilization, इसमें help करते हैं. If you are an entrepreneur, you require money, you can get it at a certain percentage of interest. But Vedic religion said कि यार लोन तो लेना ही नहीं चाहिए, पाप चढ़ता है. So what will happen to the commercial classes? So these commercial classes eventually started supporting new ideologies which were coming in the form of Jainism and Buddhism. So that's why from 6th century BC we see a shift in religion also, because every age requires a religion with certain characteristics. Now this age requires a religion which could give more thrust to economy. As per the caste system, you cannot have dining in the same room. You cannot eat from the hand of those who are from the lower caste. But will these things work in an urban economy? They will not work. Because since now you are traveling from one place to another, for your food you are dependent upon the urban eating houses or the restaurants. तो कैसे चलेगा अगर आप उसको सपोर्ट ही नहीं करने दोगे? That's why 6th century BC is often considered as an intellectual revolution in Indian history. We see not only the rise of Jainism and Buddhism, we see the rise of 60 more important ideologies like Ajivikas. Ajivikas, they believe in the philosophy of fatalism, है ना, कि सब कुछ predestined है, pre pass होना, mains pass होना और interview में marks आना. So Ajivikas was this kind of philosophy. Jainism, it believed in the concept that karmic particles, they should be separated from the body, then only you will go from the circle of life and death. While on the other hand, Buddhism, they followed the middle path. Okay, they said if you follow the middle path, eightfold path which is there, eventually you will go towards enlightenment or you will get the nirvana. So these philosophies became very prominent from 6th century onwards, and this is the main time where we see the rise of Mahajanapada. And majority of these Mahajanapadas, okay, the most powerful, now they came from the east. There were some strategic reasons why Magad was able to do so. Alright, like its capitals that we talk about, Rajgir was surrounded by 5 hills, Patliputra was surrounded by 3 rivers. So strategically you cannot attack that. The famous rulers like Bimbisara, Ajasatru, they were imperialist in their mind. They wanted to create a big empire, and that also helped them. Alright, the two famous routes, Uttarapata and Dakshinapata, they merged around their kingdom. That's why they were able to levy various kinds of taxes. The revenue is also there. They were able to use the forest resources of eastern India. All these combined, and we see the rise of Magad as the most powerful state out of them. Okay, and this is how we see the expansion of Magad. There are various dynasties which all of you know, है ना? कौन-कौन सा है? First dynasty is the Haryanka dynasty, then Shishunag is there, then Nandas are there, okay, and then we have the Mauryas. Okay, so the state is now ready. The state is now taking the form that we want more and more territory. They are going towards imperialism. Alright, so eventually we'll shift towards the Mauryan Empire. Even though the first empire was created by the Nandas, look, there is no technical differentiation between kingdom versus empire. So eventually जो बड़ा होता है उसको क्या बोल देते हैं? Empire. जो थोड़ा सा smaller size, that is known as kingdom. But anyway, Nandas created the first empire, but Pan India Empire, which can easily cover the whole of the Indian subcontinent, this was created by the Mauryas, and from Maurya the founder is Chandragupta Maurya. 321. ये टाइम पीरियड जो है थोड़ा सा हमेशा क्लैश करता है, some say 324, some say 321, but anyway that is not that much important to us. The most powerful entity of this dynasty is Ashoka, initially infamous for the Kalinga war, and that later on change of his heart and he converted to Buddhism and then shifted towards the various policies for which he is known as the great personality. Shifted towards a constitutional kind of outlook through his inscription, started taking responsibility for his subjects. First thing which you need to remember कि जब भी हम एम्पायर की बात करते हैं तो वहां पे वर्ड जो आता है सिटीजन्स की तरह क्या आता है? सब्जेक्ट्स आता है. तो सब्जेक्ट्स इज अ स्पेसिफिक वर्ड विच यू हैव टू यूज. ओके, ही डाइड बाय 232. द ट्रांसफर ऑफ पावर टुवर्ड्स हिज ग्रैंडसन हु वाज दशरथ, एंड देन इवेंचुअली द मौर्यास वर defeated by Pushyamitra Shunga. Okay, so this is how they were able to create a very big empire. All right, Mauryans. In the post-Mauryan period, around 187, we see that the Mauryans, the last king, Bridrat, he was executed by Pushyamitra Shunga. The Shungas are the one who are now able to create their sway in the eastern part of India. At the same time, we see the various invasions. So, Indo-Greek, Shakas, Kushanas, they started ruling in the western part of India. Okay, that we can see from the map also. This came under Shungas, and this was the area where we see the Indo-Greek, Shakas and Kushanas. So, we see their rise. Alright, majority of the questions, if we see, they are going to be on fundamental aspects, like what was the nature of state. Nature of state, you understand? There are various keywords like was it centralized, was it decentralized, was it secular, or was it a kind of theocracy? Okay, was it on the basis of welfare state, or it was just a imperialist state? This is what is known as the nature of state. So all these debates we have to counter along with the stories. All right. So after that, once we see the downfall of these invaders, we see the rise of Guptas. Guptas are going to rise under the leadership of Sri Gupta. The most prominent personalities later on are going to become Samudragupta, then Chandragupta II. These two are the most powerful, and later on the last important is going to be Skandagupta. After 467 AD, when he died, we see the downfall of the Guptas. Their contemporary, they were Vakatakas. Okay, Prabhavati Gupta, she was linked to them. All right, and at the same time we have some other dynasties also. So this is what Guptas were able to do. Guptas were mostly able to combine the northern part of India. Okay, and in the Deccan part we have the Vakatakas. Then after that, after downfall of the Guptas by 550 AD, the Guptas were only limited to the areas of known as later Gupta around Magadha region. Their contemporary would become Maukris and Pushyabhutis. Pushyabhuti is linked to Harshvardhana, and then they are both going to have matrimonial relationships. Okay, Maitrikas, they were ruling over Vallabhi, and in this part we see the rise of Chalukyas and Pallavas. These are the one who are going to rise in south. Let us just briefly discuss about South India, because so far our major focus has been on North India. So South India, we discussed initially that the historical period, it starts around 4th to 3rd century BCE. Okay, the first major phase is of megalith. Megalithic is nothing but the big stone boulders which we found from the graves, and the rough time period for this is 11th century BC, which is having contemporaneous with the Vedic period in the North India. It belongs to the Iron Age. So this is also what you have to remember, to 3rd century BC. Thereafter we see the Sangam Age, Sangam age is roughly from 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. This is the time where three Sangams, Sangams is nothing but the confluence of philosophers or the poets. Okay, the most important dynasty was Pandyas, which were going to have this Sangam at Madurai. But this is the age we see the rise of three important early state. Early state means the state were not mature enough. So we have Cheras, then Cholas, and finally Pandyas. So it is the Pandyas which were going to have these Sangam, and along with Sangam we see the development of the Tamil language. By 3rd century we see the rise of Kalabharas, but nothing much is known about these Kalabharas. So 3rd to roughly 4th to 6th century AD is the rule of Kalabharas. But later on, after this, from the beginning of the 7th century AD, we see the rise of Pallavas. So Pallavas are the one where we see the first important manner in which the state institutions were created. Even the beginning of Dravidian style of architecture will start under Pallavas. Some local self-governance will also start under them. Okay. So it is Pallavas. After Pallavas, we see the rise of Cholas. So this is the time period which we have to cover till Cholas, early medieval period. When we come to Deccan, so after Mauryas, we see the rise of Satavahanas. Okay, after the downfall of Satavahana, Ishwapus. Satavahanas, when it went for disintegration, many states rose. Okay, like in the region of Karnataka, we see the rise of Kadambas. Okay, in the Ishwapus also. All right. Then Deccan, we see the rise of Vakatakas, and from later on from the Vakatakas, we see the rise of the which dynasties? Chalukyas, and after Chalukyas, we see the rise of Rashtrakutas. So this is the time period. Okay, after this, only the important ones I am covering. After Chalukyas, we have Rashtrakutas. Just to create a kind of sense of understanding of all these topics. Lalit will discuss about this Aryan debate later on. Okay, so all that debate will be covered later on. This is where Harshvardhana was able to create his empire. All right, northern part. All right, Pallavas, Chalukyas, Maitrikas, so they will become the contemporary. Now, देखो, if we see the syllabus में थोड़ा और चीज हमें समझना है. Like I hope this much is clear. Proto, Indus Valley, then the megalithic cultures, है ना, roughly हमें उसके बारे में पढ़ना है. Aryans and Vedic period, period of Mahajanapadas. Then we have Mauryan Empire. In post-Mauryan, we'll discuss about Indo-Greek, Shakas and Kushanas. The most important ruler is Kanishka. Okay. Then early state and society in Eastern India and Deccan. So there we'll talk about the King Kharavala, Sangam age, and then the Satavahana. So these are in this part. Then we have Gupta, Vakatakas and Vardhans. Okay. So from the time of the Gupta period, we see a fundamental change in the political structure. The more and more use of land grants, it began. Okay, where the officers, in spite of in lieu of the salary, they were now given grants. कि आप इस area को जो भी revenue होगा वो आपका salary की तरह होगा. Like suppose if you are posted in some district, whatever is the revenue of that area becomes your revenue. Some tribute you have to given to the central authority. मजा आ जाएगा? हाँ? So this is something which began under the Guptas. Beginning means on large scale. Even though the land grant system is going to start, the first inscription belongs to Satavahanas. Maximum land grants were given in inscription by the Vakatakas. and then later on it became a very established institution in India, which will take India towards decentralization of authority, which will be known as the early medieval period. So in the regional states, so many states are mentioned: Kadambas, Pallavas, Chalukyas of Badami, okay, all others, even some philosopher like Shankaracharya, their philosophy which we'll discuss, Senas, Rashtrakuta, तो जो भी बचा कुचा था यूपीएससी ने सब इसके अंदर डाल के फिक्स कर दिया कि देखते रहो अब, ठीक है. एंड लास्ट पार्ट इज थीम्स इन इंडियन कल्चरल हिस्ट्री. सो वट एवर लैंग्वेज, टेक्स्ट, स्टेजेस इन द एवोल्यूशन ऑफ आर्ट एंड आर्किटेक्चर, है ना, मेजर फिलोसॉफिकल थिंकर, स्कूल एंड साइंस एंड मैथमेटिक्स. This is roughly where we see the end of the ancient India syllabus. But in early medieval period, question can come in your ancient India as well as medieval India. वो UPSC के ऊपर छोड़ दो, आपके हाथ में नहीं रहने वाला. Like sometimes Pallavas is mentioned here, but the question in Pallavas will come in medieval India. Cholas किसी भी तरफ दे देते हैं. Last year it was asked in medieval India. उससे पहले इसको ask किया था in the ancient India. So it keeps on fluctuating. In early medieval period कहीं भी question आपका आ जाएगा. Now one more fundamental thing, why UPSC has added everything in the regional states? Why? And still the number of question doesn't come from there. Have we seen any major question from there in the last 2 years? No. तो पढ़ते वक्त इस चीज का ध्यान रखना, syllabus necessarily is not going to be a complete imitation of your paper. पेपर में यूपीएससी इज गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन सम स्पेसिफिक एरियाज एंड लार्जली वो कौन सा बन जाता है घूम फिर के? सोर्सेस. देन इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन, वैदिक पीरियड, जैनिज्म, बुद्धिज्म, महाजनपदा पीरियड, ओके, मौर्यास, पोस्ट मौर्य में से कुछ स्पेसिफिक थीम. इन फ्रॉम साउथ इंडिया दे आस्क्ड फ्रॉम मेगालिथिक, संगम एज, ओके, सतवाना भी इज वेरी रेयर टॉपिक, बट फ्रॉम देयर चोलास इज ऑफन आस्क्ड. Okay, Cholas is often asked by UPSC. Temple architecture, rock cut caves, paintings. This is something which we have to learn thoroughly. All right. So my focus would be on both things, paper as well as syllabus. The manner in which we are going to give time to a specific topic will also depend upon its utility for the exam. Is it going to be fine with all of you? Because देखो मुझे आप लोगों को पास कराने में इंटरेस्ट है, सिर्फ सिलेबस कंप्लीट कराने में नहीं. ओके, दैट्स व्हाई द फर्स्ट हाफ ऑफ 6 to 7 टॉपिक इट मे टेक 15 to 16 क्लासेस, और रेस्ट के जो 4-5 है उसमें हम आराम से 7-8 क्लास में भी निपटा देंगे, बिकॉज वहां से कोई ज्यादा क्वेश्चन नहीं आता है. द एरियाज फ्रॉम वेयर मैक्सिमम नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस विल कम, वी शुड फोकस ऑन those topics. Is it right strategy? We'll cover the whole syllabus, but at the same time our focus should be on those areas. Our answer writing should be from those areas from where UPSC is asking question, so that whatever you learn here, it's going to directly produce results. And this is something I have been able to do from last 2 years. इसको समझ लो अच्छे से. Rank 1 हमारे यहाँ से निकला है. This year large number of selection from history optional. Top 150 में we have at least 7 to 8 candidates. So how did that happen? Because our focus in not only foundation but as well as in our test series for the main student is on these areas from where questions are going to come. So once you are starting your foundation with me, be very aware कि आपकी already the strategic alignment is going to be correct. ज़्यादा सोचने का जरूरत आपको नहीं है, because somebody is there to think on behalf of you. You have to just follow. 4 to 5 months complete dedication and you will be able to do it. History में problem नहीं आएगी, that is my guarantee to all of you. But you have to do all these things. You have to learn, at the same time write answers, revise multiple times, focus on map also, 50 marks completely from there. Focus on map also. If you will not focus there तो 50 नंबर आप खराब कर दोगे. Alright, so this is something which we have to. Alright, now this week we are only going to have this session only, today only. On Thursday you are going to have map test. All of you who have covered the maps, कितने लोगों ने cover कर लिया? I think maximum of you, and online also. So on Thursday we are going to have a test of 100 marks. Map question is of 50 marks. So two map questions will be there. 20 sides in both questions. You have to recognize and then you have to write information. Okay, you have to write information. All right. Those of you who have not done map, please cover it once online. This is my humble, you can say, appeal to all of you. Please cover map once, because from Monday onwards we'll start with the syllabus, and from that time onwards you are not going to get specifically time for the map. There are only, how many classes are there? Hardly 5 classes. Those of you have seen it, आप उसको revise भी कर सकते हो एक बार. Please revise it also, because whatever we have done in the classes is at most for इस साल का चाहे मेंस का पेपर देखेंगे हम. Our foundation will not be complete by September, that all of you know. तो हम मेंस का पेपर देखेंगे उस टाइम पे, to what extent we are able to hit each and everything. That will give you a certain kind of idea to what extent your foundation course is useful for you. This is how we see the value. All right. So all of you should revise in next 3 days. Thursday करें या Friday करें, आप मुझे बताओ. Friday would be better for all of you. 3 days would be enough for revision. All of you, those who are new, can you finish it? The map portion. अब 4-5 क्लास ही हैं, एक बार रिवाइज करके अटेम्प्ट कर लो. One more thing, whatever tests we'll have now in this foundation program, don't go by marks. Don't go by marks. We can never mimic UPSC. किसी बार वो सेम आंसर पे आपको 10 नंबर देगा 20 में से, किसी बार 15 दे देगा. Every year the high is going to change. All right, focus on what I'm going to tell you, कि information कैसा लिखा है, how much time you have taken in finishing that question. Focus on drawing grid. Similarly, when we'll do answer writing, I'll tell you the criteria on the basis of which you should evaluate yourself, rather than आपने number देखे. Because in majority of the coachings, what happen, they will write एक mark लगा होगा, साइड में good लिखा होगा और आपको दे देंगे 8 out of 10. You're very happy. मजा आ गया. The easiest way to get you on the wrong path is to give you very high marks in the beginning. आप पढ़ना छोड़ दोगे? You'll think हो गया? In our test, our focus would be on making you getting skilled. The skills would be the most important thing. चाहे वो map का है, चाहे वो answer writing का है, जो भी है. My focus would be on skills, and your focus should also be on skills rather than marks. Don't come crying to me, सर मेरे 50 के 80 आ गए, मेरा क्या होगा? हाँ, मेरा क्या होगा? कहाँ राजा भोज, कहाँ गंगूस, ये स्टार्ट नहीं करना है क्लास के अंदर. Whatever you have studied, on the basis of it, what you are performing is what counts right now. आप एफर्ट पे फोकस करिए, रिजल्ट धीरे धीरे करके आ जाएगा. बाय द एंड ऑफ अक्टूबर यू विल बी कंप्लीटली आई वुड से good enough person for getting 280 to 290 marks. But for that, the hard work of next 4 months is required. Without this is not going to happen. Am I clear to all of you? Okay, so please revise the map part in next 3 days. On Friday, same time, 2:30. Okay, you're going to have test. Those of you are in the offline में होगा. जो online में है आपका online में copies डाल दिया जाएगा. It will be evaluated. So copy लिख के घर नहीं लेके जानी है. It should be submitted. Is it clear to all of you? It should be submitted. Online student also, you can submit on the portal. For that, a specific session will be taken by धीरज, वो आपको समझा देंगे कैसे करना है. Alright, so am I clear to all of you? ठीक है? We'll have class on Monday. Today, 2-3 दिन आपको मिल रहे हैं. Please revise the map. All of you who are new also, just see the map lectures. Whatever problem is there, we'll sort it out eventually. Don't worry. दोबारा से जब लाइव होगा आपको फिर से हम आपको एक्सेस देंगे, चाहे ऑनलाइन हो चाहे ऑफलाइन हो. डोंट वरी अबाउट इट. ऑलराइट, सो आई होप इट इज क्लियर टू ऑल ऑफ यू. द ओवरव्यू इज कंप्लीट. वी आर एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड द सिलेबस एज वेल एज सम ऑफ द थिंग्स व्हिच आई वांटेड टू डिस्कस. एंड सोर्सेज का आपको इंट्रोडक्शन समझ में आ गया. व्हाट इज अ सोर्स? दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज मेनी क्लासेस विल बी ऑन दिस सोर्सेज. जस्ट रीड चैप्टर 1 ऑफ उपिंदर सिंह. नो नोट मेकिंग, नो नॉनसेंस फॉर नाउ. Okay, all the online students, I hope I am clear to all of you. Okay, Okay, thank you so much. We had a bit of a longer session today, but it was required. And please, one thing is very important, which all of you should understand. That is, प्रीलिम्स क्लियर करना ही करना है. समझ में आता है? जितनी भी आप मेहनत कर रहे हो, जितना भी आप अपनी फैमिली से इन्वेस्टमेंट करा रहे हो साथ साथ में, राइट, वो किसके बिना नहीं, कुछ नहीं होने वाला विदाउट प्रीलिम्स. तो हम प्रीलिम्स के लिए भी कुछ सेशन शुरू करेंगे आपके साथ में, बट फर्स्ट विल फिनिश एटलीस्ट 10 to 15 क्लासेस. पहले हम वो फिनिश करते हैं, फिर मैं आपको प्रीलिम्स के लिए भी कुछ मेंटरशिप स्टार्ट करूंगा कि व्हाट यू कैन डू, व्हाट यू शुड नॉट डू, बिकॉज पेपर हैज बिकम वेरी डायनेमिक. CSAT you have to take care, please. Is it clear to all of you? कोई बहाना नहीं चलेगा. I am from arts background. ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं चलेगा. I am from BTech background. कुछ नहीं चल रहा आज की डेट में. इवन इफ यू हैव क्लियर्ड IIM तब भी फेल हो रहे हैं लोग CSAT में. पीपल फ्रॉम मैथ्स ऑप्शनल आर फेलिंग इन CSAT. लिटरली हंसने की जरूरत नहीं है इस चीज पे. आप ये समझो, सी द ग्रेविटी, द चैलेंज इन फ्रंट ऑफ यू. It's becoming humongous, but people who have been able to dissect into 3 parts, comprehension, mathematics, reasoning part, you will never know कितने क्वेश्चन किस पार्ट से आने वाले हैं. वो एकदम से परमुटेशन कॉम्बिनेशन से 10 क्वेश्चन डाल देते हैं, एंड वहां बैठ के लगे हो यार इस पे NCR लगना है या NPR लगना है, क्या करना है, नहीं लगना है. फैक्टोरियल ऊपर लगता था कि नीचे लगता था. 1 घंटा इसी में निकाल दिया आप लोगों ने. हुआ होगा जिन्होंने CSAT दिया होगा इस साल, है ना. नंबर सिस्टम में 2 पहले आता, 3 स्क्वायर और क्यूब में क्या डिफरेंस था. n+1 था या n-1 था, ऊपर क्या था नीचे क्या था. नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प. सो मेक श्योर आप CSAT की वजह से ना रहो. इन हिस्ट्री ऑल ऑफ यू हैव एन एडवांटेज. दिस ईयर हिस्ट्री स्टूडेंट्स हैव बीन एबल टू गेट 12 क्वेश्चंस आउट ऑफ 14. वेरी हाई रेशियो. आपको इतना समझ में आ गया कि लास्ट में 70-75 वाले भी पास हुए हैं इस बार. पता नहीं अब कट ऑफ एग्जैक्टली क्या है, विच विल नो नेक्स्ट ईयर अनलेस सुप्रीम कोर्ट कम्स अप विद सम डायरेक्शन कि भाई तुम चेंज करो अपना प्रोसेस, विच इज नॉट बीन डन बाय UPSC सो फार. बट स्टिल दिस ईयर द गेम चेंजर वाज CSAT. It was not the paper one. So whatever you're doing in the paper one, whatever preparation for your mains optional is going on, it is not going to help my friends if we are not clearing CSAT. और आपका 90% टाइम इन्हीं चीजों में जाना है. प्री एंड मेंस 10% आपको CSAT को देना है, प्लीज, है ना. सो दैट नेक्स्ट ईयर आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू बी सीइंग योर फेसेस, सर CSAT रह रहा है, CSAT रह रहा है. अरे भाई हम मेहनत आपकी कहाँ कराएंगे, ऑप्शनल में, प्रीलिम्स में हेल्प करेंगे, बिकॉज वी आर ऑल्सो गोइंग टू कम अप विद कोर्सेज और प्रीलिम्स मेंस, वहाँ हेल्प कर सकते हैं आपकी. CSAT में भी हम फैकल्टी आपको रेकमेंड कर देंगे किसके यहाँ कर सकते हो आप. बट लास्ट में आपके दिमाग में तो नहीं घुस सकते ना. यू हैव टू लर्न हाउ टू सॉल्व क्वेश्चंस. प्लीज उसको जल्दी से एक बार पेपर देखो ऑफ लास्ट 5 years, औकात समझ में आ जाएगी. इंडिविजुअली 2-2 घंटे दे के देखो. सिट फॉर 2 hours एंड देन ट्राई टू सॉल्व. इस साल का तो अभी नहीं आंसर की आएगा, बट लास्ट 5 years द आंसर की इज देयर, सो वी कैन सी आवरसेल्फ कि भाई क्या दिक्कत है. So do that at least. Don't be oblivious. This preparation is going to kill you. कि बिना सोचे समझे कुछ भी कर रहे हो रैंडम, नॉट गोइंग टू हेल्प. चाहे वो कोई भी एस्पेक्ट हो, कि बिना प्रीलिम्स पास करे आंसर राइटिंग करने में मजा आ रहा है, आंसर राइटिंग नहीं कर रहे सिर्फ प्रीलिम्स पास करने में मजा आ रहा है. एवरी टाइप ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स आई हैव सीन इन लास्ट 10 years. सम ऑफ देम वर माई फ्रेंड्स, सम ऑफ देम माई स्टूडेंट्स. ठीक है, आई हैव सीन एवरी कैटेगरी ऑफ पीपल. इस बार मेरे पास थिंक, अगर इस बार किसी के 115 नंबर हो GS1 में, यू कैन कॉल देम डेमी गॉड्स. जब 75 पे सिलेक्शन हो रहा है, 115 इज अ वेरी हाई स्कोर. फेल्ड इन CSAT 50 marks. You can call them evil. Heaven and hell, same day. Don't let it happen. वहाँ पे कम से कम 75 से 80 मार्क्स आना चाहिए. एंड आई वुड से 80+ इज अ सेफ स्कोर, बिकॉज नोबडी नोज द कीज. बी वेरी फ्रैंक विद यू. कोई भी इंस्टीट्यूट कोई भी की निकालता है CSAT में, वो कहीं ना कहीं काम नहीं आती है. पेपर 1 में फिर भी इट इज फिजिबल. दिस ईयर्स पेपर वाज अ बिट ambiguous in some of the questions. So for those 5-6 questions, nobody knows what will be the final answer. Rest everybody can predict. तो वो आप कर पाओगे, लेकिन पेपर 2 में आपको ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा, मैथ्स में जितने क्वेश्चन सही करोगे एग्जैक्ट मार्क्स आने वाले, कॉम्प्रिहेंशन में द एम्बिग्युइटी विल इंक्रीज अ लिटिल बिट, दैट्स व्हाई बी वेरी अवेयर अबाउट इट, डोंट लीव थिंग्स इन बिटवीन. Alright, I'll meet you on Monday. On Friday you're going to have test. Please write it, revise whatever we have done in the last class, and whatever we have discussed today, please revise this also. Okay, we'll share this PPT with all of you. This will be in your portal. You can just see it once or twice, so that when we start with the first topic, hopefully all of you will be in your right frame of mind and you will not ask me these questions. Sir, Paleolithic का time period क्या होता है? Mesolithic में painting क्यों शुरू हुई? Neolithic में village शुरू हुआ था या नहीं हुआ था? At least this level is required. That's why I have done a lot of hard work last month also with that conceptual classes. I have done a lot of hard work in this month also. So please इसको खराब नहीं करना है और क्लास में आके इस लेवल पे बैठना है that whatever I am telling you at least you are able to appreciate it. Understand हो ना हो देखा जाएगा. I can repeat it twice thrice, but you should be able to entertain that thought कि हाँ ठीक है source में integrity क्या होता है. That much I am expecting from all of you now. Is it clear? Okay, because once the syllabus will start, classes बहुत तेज जाएंगी कि पहले दिन ये, दूसरा, तीसरा, चौथा, पांचवा. You will also see syllabus is going to move fast. Okay, because we are not going to go for dictation. Dictation मेरा काम नहीं है. Be very learned kind of people कि हाँ खुद सोचने समझने पे ध्यान दो. लेकिन बस लग के सुबह से शाम नोट मेकिंग की आदत डाल ली है, नोट मेकर बन के रह गए लाइफ में. That should not happen. Okay, focus would be on answer writing, focus would be on covering of the PYQ, focus would be on covering all those elemental areas which are not covered in the books. Focus would be on minimizing your hard work so that you can focus on other things also in a simultaneous manner. That is my work and that is something which we'll do. Alright, so that's it for today. We'll meet on Monday, but on Friday all of you are having a test either in online or offline format. Those of you अगर आपको कोई और क्लास है तो आप फ्राइडे को यहाँ से जैसे ऑफलाइन में आप टेक्स्ट कलेक्ट करके घर पे भी लिख के फिर वापस सबमिट कर सकते हो, ठीक है. पर घर पे जाने के बाद नोट्स नहीं खुलने चाहिए बस. दैट इज द इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ द स्टूडेंट विच इज रिक्वायर्ड एट दिस लेवल. ऑलराइट, थैंक यू सो मच.